All right, ladies and gentlemen, sorry about that wait. YouTube only lets you do this in increments of 15 minutes. So like you have to put your go live at 5:45 or 6, which I find very strange. It's very interesting to see, like, now that I'm using a different service, how behind the times some of the more established things are. All right, hold on, let me check this. Is this coming through my headphones? Maybe not. Oh, okay, yeah, no. Whoops. All right, give it a second. I believe in you. There we go. All right. I got to set up the... Oh, god dang it. I set the wrong button. I'm so flustered. Yo. Sorry. So I take care of my son on Tuesdays and Thursdays. When he gets out of his, we'll just say like autism, ABA stuff. So like, I was rushing to get the stream ready, to get it set up, to create. I should have created oh my god, thumbnail last night, but welcome new people to the Discord, by the way. All right, let me actually throw the stream in here. Since I'm at it, I guess I should put a camera in front of you guys, but I'm about to hop in here so soon. But let me actually just... throw my camera on. Also, I guess check my camera settings while I'm at it. Yeah, seems to be looking all right. I didn't switch the intro video yet. So like I couldn't do the intro video because it's like the vaccine one, if you guys remember that one. And that is so dangerous to put on YouTube. Like there's no way. Oh god damn it, wrong. That's the link to where you guys already are. I'm an idiot. Wrong thing. Here we go. There we go. Just throwing stuff in the Discord, see what you guys are about. All right, music's going, chat's going, side stream. There, all right. I think I got most of the stuff working. What's my position on this? So my position is pretty straightforward. Aircraft Sparky. The too long didn't read is Russia's fucking stupid. That no, they're not influenced by Russians to any degree more than they would be influenced by, let's say, Israel, which they're far more influenced by. I would say that there is Russian influence, but like there's influence from like literally everywhere. Okay, why is this guy spamming the N-word? Okay. All right, here you go. 25-minute timeout. Or sorry, 30-minute timeout for both you guys. Don't do that, guys. Right? Like there's no need for that. That's stupid. Ban them? No, I don't know. I don't a ban unless on the first offense. Ever for anything. I don't care how horrible it is. Personal policy of mine. YouTube requires that I take some level of action. So I take some level of action the first time. If they come back and they do that again, then yeah, then I ban them. But I try to be as I try to censor as little as possible. Yeah, I know what they're doing. Ban that guy for saying ban them? No. It's just like YouTube requires that I take action, so I take action. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, fair enough. It's just I don't want to be I don't want someone to be like, oh, you're supposedly all free speech, but then you immediately ban people for a joke. It's like, no, I never do that. And it's just because I don't know like what might trigger me or make me feel some type of way, but maybe not other people. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, I have to treat all jokes as equal, because I don't necessarily always trust my judgment to be like the arbiter of what isn't or isn't. That ain't a joke. I know it's not a joke on YouTube. That's why I immediately fucking timed it out. It's a TOS violation, right? But I'm not arguing this with you, Aircraft. I understand your concern and I appreciate your concern. And I will do what is required by YouTube, which is first time I'm going to take an action. And then the next action I take, which isn't required by YouTube, I'll just ban them. But anyways, yeah, like too long didn't read. I think the Russian influence is, promulgated myth from 2016. Russia. But I think it's a little bit more than that. I think it is Trump derangement syndrome. I do think it is a little bit of the Russia derangement. But I think it's also, and we'll get into this more on the panel, the difficulty that Democrats have grasping with the fact that they are no longer the anti-war party. So they have to believe that it's Russian influence because people don't want to fucking continue funding hundreds of billions of dollars for war, or because they can't admit or don't want to argue about the border. So it all becomes, right, they're the warmongers, but certain GOP people have a soft spot for Israel, which makes them hypocrites, which makes that argument a little bit more complicated. And I get that too. But let me hop into this Discord and see what we got to do. Should start momentarily anyways. I guess I just go backstage.
It was wild.
Testing.
Yo, what's up?
Not much.
Everyone's getting here, the whole gang. My mic sound okay? It's new, so hopefully it's working just okay. I was trying to figure out a way to position it, like so it didn't just block my face the whole time. But honestly, the stream might be better that way. So we'll see. It's a joke. Anyway.
Nah, I got you, Papa. No, we want to see the glorious beard, Wick. We want to see the glorious beard.
Well, we got 4 glorious spirits on here. Rashad, you'll grow into yours. Don't worry. Give it time.
In time.
Give it time. Okay.
No, I just trim mine. Like, fuck that. I guess like once you have to start like grooming it as opposed to just throwing some oil and giving it a quick brush, then it's annoying. Like I don't need a crumb catcher. Yeah, beard oil, fucking like,
the flavor
take care of
okay, right?
I take care of my beard. My beard's luscious. This is quite funny. I was a male model last week for a haircut thing. They cut my hair. I got luscious long hair, and my beard. I let my beard grow out, and they cut it real nice. It was real nice, fantastic. Yeah, I don't ever use beard oil. If I did, I think I'd be real greasy. It'd be nasty.
Just naturally that way. Okay.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I guess I'm an oily motherfucker. You know what I'm saying?
Counter, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing well. I'm doing very well. How are you?
Man, I'm jealous of your bolter, dude. Like, I was watching that video earlier. I was like, man, I just want to go and perch the Dinos. That's all I wanted to do.
So the game plan.
One-handed is what I need you to do.
Yeah. I saw like at least half a dozen people be like, a real Space Marine could shoot it one-handed. And I was like, I guess I gotta make a video. I guess I gotta under your alt profiles. Yeah. Nice. I guess I need to go. I guess I need to go make a one-handed video now. So unfortunately, I can't show the live stream. I actually caught a community warning from YouTube for you're not supposed to show real firearms on a live stream. So I think that's because probably too many people were like playing with it and they did like an accidental discharge or something like that. That makes sense to me. So yeah, so I can't play with it or show the live stream people, but if you go to Twitter and you check out Counter Connor, then you can see me firing what looks like a Warhammer 40k bolter.
That's pretty dope.
Let me DM Laura and see where she is.
I was gonna say, you were talking about putting the Adeptus Scion, cosplay. I was sitting there thinking, if it is hard to fire one-handed, what I was gonna suggest is you could build the Space Marine thing, and you could build bracers in that arm, so that it'll give you support so you can do that more accurate.
Yeah, there's a gentleman. Somebody sent me a link and said that like you need to make a copy and send it to this guy. I think he's in the United Kingdom, but he's working on I think a non-powered exoskeleton that actually does give like a strength boost, like a strength and stability boost. So yeah, so basically I need to perfect it. The model that I had in that clip was about 1/4 of an inch off for being fully snug and not moving at all. So I need to make like a couple of modifications. Then there's a few aesthetic modifications I want to make, and then honestly, I'm gonna reprint it. I'm gonna paint it, and then I'm gonna do a torture test where I'm gonna shoot like 100 rounds at like 1,400 feet per second, because that's like the maximum threshold that I can do. And if the casing stands up to that abuse and pressure, then I'll feel comfortable actually like selling people the STLs or offering full versions to other people.
Okay. Well, I don't know where she is. We're just gonna get started on time. When she gets here, if she gets here, I'll pull her in, and we'll see how that goes. I guess hopefully her little beef with Hunter didn't scare her off from this, but we'll find out. Anyway, okay, you all know the drill. I'll introduce the topic. I'll say hi to my audience, and then you guys will each get and I stress this, concise introduction, and we'll go from there. Sound good? Any questions?
So I've been on a hiatus for a while. When you say introduction, do you mean introduction to the topic as well?
Yes, the statement, opening statements. Okay,
okay, all right, fair enough. It's a weird way. If I remember vaguely that you do it a weird way, where like you don't give like opening statements really that are separate. It's fine. It's fine.
We good? Go. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Okay. Hello. Welcome, one and all, to yet another episode of Wick TV. Gang, I have a new microphone. We just set this up, so if the audio's off, please let me know as soon as possible, and I'll try to adjust it. But that being said, get ready for a great show today. We're going to be talking about Russian influence in the GOP. Is it something we should be concerned about? Is it something that we should be worried about? Or is this just Russiagate all over again? Recently, Mike Johnson has blocked Ukrainian funding, as well as Tucker Carlson going to interview Putin and doing his little supermarket tour there and other videos, does raise the question. I've assembled a team to talk about this and influence in politics in general. And we're going to start with Rashad Crenshaw, the one who actually was wanting to set this topic up. So I'm going to let him start us off, introduce himself, give the opening statement, and we'll just go from there. Rashad, go for it.
What's up? My name is Rashad Crenshaw, and I firmly believe that currently the Republican Party runs the risk of becoming significantly influenced by Russia as it pushes further and further toward the MAGA faction of the Republican Party. The MAGA faction of the Republican Party, alongside conservative pundits through a combination of horrible policy and manipulative media, have shifted the Republican base further and further toward geopolitical ideologies and narratives that are beneficial to Russia and destructive to the geopolitical interests of the United States.
Okay, thanks for being here. Admiral Gibbs, you're up next.
So I'm Admiral Gibbs. You can find me everywhere at Admiral Gibbs on all the socials. It's good stuff. So this is a nothing burger. It's a non-issue. Anybody that's saying that Russia is influencing the Republican Party in any successful degree is just spouting leftist talking points, and which is really ironic because Russia, much like China, still has some socialist elements to it, and we all know that the Democratic Party is home of socialism. So if we should be talking about a party that's influenced by Russia and other malignant influences like China, we should be talking about the Dems. But I guess we're talking about the Republicans, and you know what? Like I said, it's a nothing burger, and I'm here to stand up for my conservative brethren in that regard.
Okay, well, we'll see how it goes. Thanks for being here. Really appreciate you. Next up, counterpoints. Go ahead. Sorry, I stumbled on my words for a little bit.
No, it's okay. Hi, everybody. My name's Connor. I will run a YouTube channel named Counterpoints. And in reference to this topic in general, I'm with Mr. Crenshaw 100%. I think that you'd have to be blind in order to deny the influence. When you're talking about Tucker Carlson simping for Putin, when you're talking about Trump simping for Putin, when you're talking about MAGA in general being non-interventionist, all that kind of stuff, it lines up with fiscal conservative talking points. It lines up with isolationist talking points, but these are obviously all geopolitical strategies that benefit Russia. I think you'd have to be blind in order to deny it. The question is whether or not that's a good thing, right? So I think that MAGA people, they might say, and question mark. That might be because basically we have international influence that affects our politics all the time. Obviously, we're in bed with Saudi Arabia. Obviously, we're in bed with Ukraine. Obviously, we're in bed with a whole bunch of other countries. So what makes Russia unique in that we should not be having a positive relationship with them? And I think that's what we need to talk about really is like why are our geopolitical interests at odds? And that's kind of going to be the crux for me, but I'll leave it for the open.
Oh, excellent. Thanks for being here. Really appreciate it. Oh, before I forget, I am being paid by Progressive Victory. I just try to say that before every stream.
Me too.
People yell at me. Okay, so yeah, just so you know.
Me too.
Okay.
And they're probably not going to like my takes tonight.
Oh, well, they're not paying me for this content, to be clear, right? Like no one's paying me for this.
I'm glad I can contribute to their propaganda.
Next up, someone who's been on my show before, but it's been a while. Welcome back, Fabian Liberty. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm Fabian Liberty. You can find me pretty much everywhere. I don't stream on Twitch. I just came back after like a year hiatus almost, streaming on YouTube this week. Or I guess technically I did one stream last week. So if you want to check me out, check me out there. I do occasional videos. I'm an anarcho-capitalist. So in many ways, I am a hardcore libertarian. I have an outside perspective here, I hope. Looking at this, it depends on what you mean by influence. I think if we can do a Mott and Bailey here where, I think you could say that any country with power is going to have influence on both political parties. So to deny that there's any influence would be to deny reality. Is there significant influence? Clearly not. It's a progressive fairy tale that is, on the back of Trump derangement syndrome that has been occurring since 2016. Almost a decade of Russia. But it's more than that. And so when I thought about this topic, trying to understand why leftists might even think this, I realized where this is actually coming from. Like it dawned on me. It's coming from the fact that Democrats are having to cope with the knowledge that they are no longer the party that is anti-war, that they are no longer the faction that is against going to war, is against spending hundreds of billions of dollars to fund overseas wars and bombing of countries, etc. And so this is a kind of a required reactionary thing that the left has to do to understand why they're the ones that want to spend hundreds of billions of dollars to continue a war with Russia, as opposed to just pulling out money and trying to vie for peace, which is what the Republicans want for the most part. And most of them are far more concerned with our southern border than they are with two countries that they really don't care that much about fighting in a place over resources. And so that's what I think is kind of the real crux of the issue here, is the left having to understand and come to terms with the fact that they're not anti-war and they're not pro-peace. They're neocons.
Okay. And with that, let's open it up to the general discussion. Rashad, what do you think of all that?
I think the left is far from trying to cope with being anti-war. I think the left has grown up geopolitically. I think the left has grown up and realized currently, and plenty of, Republicans that would be considered rhinos. Well, they've always been, very understanding of the realities of war geopolitically. But I think the left, and especially in terms of the public, have grown up to realize that we can't run away from war. War is not something we can run away from. It's something we do have to confront. It's something we do have to find solutions for. And I think that the right, if anything, has embraced a far more childish perception of the world, where we're delving into ridiculous conspiracy theories about Lockheed and Raytheon plotting to take over the world by funding Zelensky. We're actually seeing the right start to embrace almost a fantasy world in which America can become isolationist and like overdose on white lines of border cocaine, just like sitting there, just becoming obsessed with the border, as if we can't solve two problems at once. So I would argue that the left has actually become far more realistic foreign policy wise, and the right has drifted far more toward, I guess, fantasy. Pro-war is a really loaded way
and the left is. Yeah, well,
you're
saying you just did a loaded way of putting it.
Hold on. We do have one more guest.
Okay,
that
fair
I
enough.
have to let introduce themselves. They're a little late, but that's okay.
Sorry.
Lauren, it's okay. Can you turn I'll turn yourself up a little bit too. Okay.
I have a mic. I just need to like connect everything. I thought it was at 6:30, not at 6, because I'm stupid.
Okay. No worries. No worries. Take your time. Get set up. When you're set up, let me know, and we will get you your intro to the topic. But in the meantime, go ahead, go back and forth. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
Hold on.
Yeah,
Just quickly though.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Quickly.
All right, for foreign policy, to say that the conservatives are losing the plot with foreign policy, look at what has happened under Trump versus what has happened under Biden. When it comes to world wars, when it comes to world issues, when it comes to the meeting that the Biden administration even had with China, and they were like, wow, the Biden administration didn't even have the power anymore to say that we are the moral superiors and that they should stop euthanizing the Uyghur population and now the Catholic Christian population, because the Chinese literally turned right back around and said, what about defund the police? Aren't you killing all the African Americans? Because they're so fucking woke. Like, we have no foothold in foreign policy anymore because the liberals have fucked everyone out of it. Go ahead. Sorry, Fabian.
Fabian, my bad. Did you want me to respond to the...
Yeah, I'll let you respond to Lauren. We have plenty of time, and then I'll respond.
Okay, well, I think... Okay, so Lauren, I think that's called like a convenient explanation for why they shouldn't stop killing the Uyghurs. I don't think China had a revelation about black people's humanity. This is the same China that when COVID went off, they said, actually, the black people are the reason why we have COVID. Didn't you know we have all these Africans spreading COVID? They're the problem. They don't realize America already like unlocked the whole racial equality part of the tech tree. They forgot about that part. We're not.
You're literally
so the reality is.
Wait, hold on. So we unlocked racial equality?
I'd say America. I'd say.
One at a time.
We're on the tail end of Black History Month. We're on the tail end of Black History Month. I'm claiming today that America has moved toward racial equality just about in comparison to China.
You heard
it.
In
comparison to China. Argue with a black man on the last
on Black History Month.
What is wrong with
you?
Honestly.
All right, so
Biden
Rashad,
and his Democrats that live in their la-la land of non-existence say that African Americans are getting murdered by the thousands because of our police officers, and because of their absolute nonsensical understanding of reality, we have completely lost a foothold.
Okay, do you acknowledge that China?
Example of many.
But you gotta hear me though.
Okay. I'm throwing a flag on the play. I'm gonna get some control here because it's gone. I love the energy. I love the passion, but we gotta take one thread at a time. From my brothers and my sisters here, one thread at a time. Lauren, finish setting up, and we're gonna pass the ball to Fabian for at least a little while you finish setting up, and then we can go back to this thread. Fabian, please.
Yeah, to add just a teeny bit of sense to this conversation, I think Lauren's point is your point, is that China's bullshitting, but because of the weakness of the political philosophy and ideology that has captured the Democratic Party, where they have become so beholden to leftist ideology and an inability to speak out against per se wokeness, it leaves them weak to have any moral high ground. That the Biden administration cannot do what the Trump administration does, which is the Trump administration previously is a grandiose narcissist that says he's the greatest at everything and always claims the moral high ground. And in some ways that is effective as a foreign policy position. Because it's a bargaining chip where he's always exaggerating. So any compromise is kind of already coming towards America's amazing. Whereas the Biden administration is the exact opposite, is that they come in weak. They come in genuflecting that we have these issues and we are an immoral nation and we're just trying to fix these problems. And then China goes, well, look at you. You're killing all the black people. So how dare you talk to us about Uyghur Muslims? If you try that on Trump, Trump goes, Trump would laugh it off, completely ignore that they even made that comment, and then hammer them. I think that is kind of the point that she's trying to make.
Something tells me that Joe Biden did not cease his foreign policy ambitions toward China because China pulled the Uno reverse card.
The
I don't
dude
think that's
doesn't
what's
have
happening.
any foreign.
And furthermore, hold on. Wait, what are you saying?
No, go ahead.
Sorry.
I was
just laughing at the idea of Joe Biden.
I don't think that Lauren. Yeah, I don't think that Lauren was saying that. It seemed to me like she was saying that China was somehow. Well, it sounds really silly to me though, because China's going to do what it wants anyways. Bringing up black people being killed in America is a convenient excuse for public media, but they're going to do whatever they want to do anyways. They're the same population that said all these black people here in China, they're the reason why you guys are dealing with COVID. It would never be us. This nation was always down low and dirty and grimy.
Real quick. No, real quick. So it seems to be that you are dismissing the concept of world opinion, the concept of how leaders are seen, the concept of the strength through diplomacy.
No, I'm not dismissing it. What I'm telling you is that China's going to do what it wants to do.
Pause.
Okay. You gotta let him finish.
Are you saying that your political position is that of realism? Are you saying that like the nuances in the words that China says doesn't fucking matter because they're going to do the evil shit anyways? And so are you saying that you're primarily coming out here saying, hey, I'm a political realist about like what will be done will be done?
I mean it's like Putin bringing up It's like Putin bringing up, oh, well, the reason why we invaded Ukraine is because NATO wanted to join. You guys are expanding. It's like, well, you've had imperialistic intentions for quite some time now. You invaded Chechnya. You invaded Georgia. This is not new. This is not. I mean, you invaded Ukraine into Crimea.
You're going on new points.
No. I'm exactly on my point. What I'm trying to explain to you is that in geopolitics, nations will. No.
Just answer the question.
Nations
a basic
will
political philosophy.
Are you done?
You
okay.
Gotta get
nations.
Okay.
Nations.
Hold on. We got a line here, so we're gonna let Rashad finish, right? And then we're gonna go to counterpoints and Gibbs, and that's the order we're gonna go into. And then we'll get since Lauren is set up, we're gonna let her have her little statement. So go ahead.
Okay. Nations will do as they please. I think it's silly to count this as a geopolitical fault against the Biden administration, when nations will do as they please and bring up insane reasonings for why. Well, what about the black people being killed in your country? Or, well, you expanding to Ukraine is somehow a threat to our nations will do as they please and bring up any excuse to say that, well, this is the reason why Joe Biden's foreign policy is trash because China brought up something about America. This is not a point against Joe Biden's foreign policy at all. It's literally just it's not
one tiny example.
Can you just answer the question that I posed?
The
are you a political realist?
Since you can't get it, yes. Basically, what I'm saying is yes. There's more to it than just
Right, but the argument, you're arguing against a straw man. Nobody said that the reasons for all of the actions that exist are due to the rationale that China gives. In fact, we affirmed the concept that the rationale that China gives is bullshit. The difference that is being made here is the political power and sway that comes from the way that the will of the people throughout the world and countries and their willingness to support or go against leaders when they show certain leadership qualities. And the concept here is that Biden and the Biden administration is weak. And the reason that they are weak is because they genuflect about all of the moral issues that they must be beholden to the radical left in order to maintain the left-wing coalition. That is what we were talking about.
This is
try and keep up.
Yeah, I would like to back up Mr. Crenshaw here.
Go ahead, countercard.
Yeah,
this is an insanity.
So here's the thing. No, I literally don't even think your perspectives are like incompatible.
They're not.
Mr. Crenshaw,
I was just trying to get an answer.
Yeah, which Mr. Crenshaw said, which I agree with, is the fact that just because Xi Jinping or one of his representatives gets a dunk during a press conference in the marketplace of ideas has nothing to do with like DOD or Department of State policy. Like the machines of the institutions of government and diplomacy and the military and all that kind of stuff, they don't stop just because President Biden has like a gaffe at like one speech. We don't change our policy on Taiwan because he got a sweet dunk during an interview, right? So what I think Mr.
No one's
Crenshaw
making
is saying,
that
which I would agree with. Okay, cool. Well, I'll get to your argument and I'll tell you why I think you're partially correct as well in a moment. The what I think Mr. Crenshaw is saying is that, like, this has nothing to fucking do with it because these institutions are way more powerful than you're giving them credit for, if I was to summarize it briefly. Then when it comes to your perspective, where you're saying that the United States isn't able to project power with the moral authority that it's able to, as a result, countries are making different decisions than they would under a Trump presidency, that might be true, but I would say that some people prefer the decorum and tact and expectations of the institutions.
Yeah, almost all of Europe prefers that.
Yeah, they prefer the decorum and like the group benefit thinking over just throwing your fucking weight around and kind of being a dickhole.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, Europe has always been more about diplomacy, about game theory, about liberalization, and the Asian countries have always respected powerful, somewhat tyrannical, throwing your weight around, throwing your dick on the table.
Well, the truth is, you need both, right?
Yeah,
Walk softly, you do. Carry a big stick.
Yeah. I mean, I would agree with that. I mean, in the sense that, you know, separating my anarchist shit. But yeah, please, other people want to speak.
Yeah, Gibbs, then Lauren.
All right, so I want to mention something, right? So we talked about the Biden foreign policy. It has been atrocious. There is a measurable difference between that and what Trump did. I'm not even the most diehard Republican Trumper, but let's just compare a few things, right? First, Biden's limp dick responses to China and North Korea have never made Taiwan more in danger than it is now. Like, it is the most pathetic rollover die policies I've ever seen. It's pathetic. Like, it's just amazing. I don't know how you can even say that the world's not a more dangerous place today than it was before because of Biden. It's that simple. All right, like you can measure it against what Trump was doing with North Korea. There was cooperation between South Korea and North Korea. There was less military threats. Now we've gotten to a point where North Korea doesn't even recognize South Korea anymore as a singular country, that they're torn apart. This is like the first time in ever since the creation, basically, that they've said this. They're like the closest to war that they've been since the war, right? It's just one-on-one. Iran has never been more strong and influential than they have ever been right now. They're going around. We got the Palestinian conflict with Israel, partially due to Iran. Hezbollah is basically running Lebanon, right? We got the Houthis running wild, threatening shipping.
That was true under Trump.
Yeah, well, but they're stronger now. Like, we got all these things, and they have massive influences in Iraq. We saw that when Trump killed Salami or whatever his name, or turned him into Salami, he got wrecked. You know what I'm saying? And like, guess what? They backed off. They got pissy. But guess what Biden's doing? Nothing. They're getting more influence over there. It's just a mess. Every one of our enemies is better off except for Russia. And then they have the audacity to sit here and turn and say, "Oh, look at Russian influence." Well, they don't even have that much influence. Maybe the better example would be Republicans are sympathetic to some Russian views, but they don't want their influence. When Russia offered guns to Texas to stop them on the border, Texans were like, "Ha ha, no!" Right? Like, that's not a real thing. And then it turned out it was a hoax.
Wait, but
anyway.
I'm actually confused. Do you want a more muscular foreign policy, or do you want a weaker foreign policy? Because
I want a more muscular
I would argue.
Foreign policy.
Well, hold on. I would argue that our interventions in Ukraine and American isolationism when it comes to Ukraine is motivated by an attempt to withdraw from the world that comes with populist rhetoric from Trump. He doesn't want to be involved in all this bullshit. Whereas what I would say, hold on, I just want to finish this point because I feel like it's a gap in your argumentation.
A little bit of housekeeping before you finish, Counter. Dylan Burns will be joining us in about 20 minutes, so.
Beautiful.
He's seeing this and he's malding, so he wants on. So go ahead.
Okay. So I feel like a little bit of a gap in your argumentation is you're simultaneously saying that Biden's weak, he's non-interventionist, all these places are falling apart, American muscle, American muscle, American muscle. But realistically, when you look at like MAGA Republicans and Trump's own rhetoric, he wants to withdraw. He wants to pull out of NATO. He wants to stop funding Ukraine.
Yeah, he wants people to carry their fair share. Like, that's not an unreasonable ask. I don't know why we're the ones.
I don't think he wants Ukraine to carry their fair share. They're what have they lost? At least like a few 100,000 young men. That's more than their fair share fighting a war.
He's willing to throw the offer up. What? Bro, it's just a meat factory over there, bro. Like what are you talking about? It's a literal charnel.
You think that sacrificing a few 100,000 young men is not like a notable sacrifice on behalf of the Ukrainians?
What? I don't understand what you're asking right now. Like,
I'm saying that okay, so as opposed to Afghanistan, where they rolled over for the Taliban within 11 days, I think all resistance forces.
Sure, Ukraine's fighting.
Hold on.
Yeah,
let me finish the point. I just want to finish the entire
point
so everybody understands it.
Can you connect that?
How is this Russian influence? Because I would basically say that stopping funding for Ukraine and stopping support for Ukraine benefits Russia.
Well, that was my
whole. That's not Russian influence. Hold on, pause. Hold on, no, real quick.
How's it not?
That's not Russian. That's literally not. Just because something, if I cut my grass and it makes my neighbor's property value go up because I take care of my yard, that doesn't mean I'm influenced by my neighbor's nefarious desire for higher property values. It means I cut my fucking grass. Like it's a pure non sequitur to say that cutting funding to support a war must mean
one at a time.
No, if you want to, yeah, but if you want to, just connect that dot.
And then we gotta let the other side respond.
I'm okay with
didn't connect any dots.
Differentiation. Yeah, I'm okay with this differentiation, and I'd like to articulate it really quick. So you're right that just because a foreign policy decision benefits a country doesn't mean that it's necessarily influenced by said country, right? I heard you.
Right. Thank you.
What I would say is that when you have people like Trump sucking up to Putin, when you have him making off-color comments, when you have him making off-color comments about how he doesn't want to support NATO as much, and if people don't pay their fair share, he's basically going to withdraw from the alliance entirely. When you have those destabilizing comments mixed with Tucker Carlson going to do a softball interview with Trump, I think it's safe to say that if you view these as the two largest members of the populist MAGA right, then yeah, they're simping for fucking Russia, and they are interested in giving benefits to Russia.
No, I do. I hear you, Admiral Gibbs. I hear you, but we got to pass.
It's pretty circumstantial,
for a little bit.
Bad evidence.
Okay. Lauren hasn't gotten her opening statement.
I give 5 minutes to the sexy Mr. Gibbs.
Okay, Gibbs. I guess she ceded her time. Fair enough.
Thank you. I appreciate it. No, basically, this was the ending part. And this is a really big one, right? So a lot of this is the pot calling the kettle black. They're sitting here pointing and saying Russian influence, when we had literal evidence that there was collusion between the Biden crime family and Ukraine, on multiple levels.
Oh, do we?
Yeah, we do. It's all.
I don't know.
Because
I think that evidence
that didn't go so. Yeah,
that evidence just came out as being Russian influence.
It seems like there's evidence that there's a lot of Ukrainian evidence. All I'm saying seems real fishy, right? And so we're tied over here.
Oh, it
Everybody's
is.
sitting here going, "Hey, look, we don't like Russia. The best way we can do this is we can cast blame and aspersions on the Republic and say,
Gibby, I got something for you."
Well, do you want to go first, Mr. Crenshaw? Because I wanted to give the take that I thought PV wasn't going to like.
Oh no, I want you to finish up your take. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So my take that I think PV wouldn't necessarily like, since they're more Democrat oriented or whatever, is that I think that our entire upper echelon of government is influenced by foreign companies. When you look at the Clintons, for instance, and they had the Clinton Foundation where they were taking hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars and funneling it into their organization. When you have the Bidens who were involved with Burisma and took hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars into their family. When you have Jared Kushner who took billions of dollars or manages billions of dollars and is obviously going to take a profit from that. I view this all as corruption with a lower capital C. So I would appreciate it if this isn't going to happen. This isn't. Oh, I just think that our elites are bought and beholden by foreign interests.
Oh, okay. I was trying to understand what corruption with a lower capital C means.
Yeah, sorry, I'm a lowercase c. Excuse me, but the lowercase c. But the point being that I would bar this. Like if we were to reset the republic, I would bar this behavior entirely. I would make it so immediate family members cannot do international business with foreign governments. It's fucking insane that we tolerate this behavior.
I
Rashad,
highly
did
doubt
you
Progressive
have
Victory is going to disagree with you on that.
Yeah, Rashad, did you have your
yeah, I mean,
go ahead.
Yeah, I had something for Gibbs. We talk about what's going on with Burisma, which I won't deny that these financial transactions took place. But I think it's really interesting that one of the key pieces of evidence, if not the key piece of evidence that Republicans thought was going to be their Hail Mary, coincidentally seems to come from a character by the name of Alexander Smirnov, who was indicted on charges of making a false statement and creating false and fictitious records in relation to an FBI probe all around the Biden family's relations with Burisma. This guy was receiving information from Russia. I mean, if you want to talk about Russian influence in the GOP, let's talk about it.
Dude, listen, it doesn't matter where you dig, you are going to find Democrats, if not more, at the very least, the same level of influence from Russian oligarchs and yes, I understand that you, as a Democrat, demand a stringent level of evidence for these claims. I didn't bring these claims in because I think they distract from the topic at hand, right? But nevertheless, like every stone that you upturn, you're going to find Democrat organizations there as much as you're going to find Republicans. The Steele dossier, right? Like you're going to find like oligarchs getting special access after donating to Hillary Clinton to the Department of Defense. You're going to find Burisma. You're going to find Republicans that are working in these places. You're going to find a ton of Republicans that are connected to Chinese corporations that they shouldn't have. They're all politicians. They're all fucking sick. They're all fucking gross, and they all have some level of influence. But when the topic at hand is there this growing level of influence, what I see is the same shit you guys have been trying for 8 years, damn near a decade, which is Russia with spurious to little evidence, and it's fucking dumb.
Here's the problem.
And it's a distraction from the fact that you're pro-war.
This is actually affecting Republican foreign policy. See, the Democrats, as it stands right now, the shittiest influence I've seen on their foreign policy is. What do you mean where? We have some of the biggest MAGAites in America constantly derailing funding for not only Ukraine but also Israel. Why are you saying this isn't a problem?
Yes. So what is my claim? What is my claim, dude? My claim is that these people care more about the border than they do funding foreign fucking wars.
That means they're retarded.
Russia influenced.
It's called being retarded. There are levels to this, and it's called being retarded.
Right? It's
you can handle the border.
Spend $130 billion on some other fucking war.
We have
a Department of Homeland Security.
We have 3 people trying to talk. I can't hear it. Goddamn one of it.
One
All
sentence.
I hear is
One
someone
sentence.
screaming retarded over and over.
One sentence. One sentence. One sentence.
How long of a sentence? You got like
short sentence.
10, 20 seconds.
Short sentence.
20 seconds. Go ahead.
This very conversation is the proof that Democrats have turned into William F. Buckley.
Okay, Rashad.
If I knew who that was, I might be insulted.
Please.
We have a Department of Defense and we have a Department of Homeland Security. We can very easily walk and chew gum at the same time. This is very possible. Just because conservative voters at home are too uninformed to realize that you can take care of both the border and foreign policy does not mean that the Biden administration is wrong or that Democrats are wrong for wanting to be tough on Russia and Ukraine. Just because the average populist Republican voter is a moron foreign policy-wise does not invalidate proper foreign policy. Like, this is not an argument.
Yeah, I'll respond real quick. So the response is very simple. I agree with you, yes, that the money given to Ukraine and the money that would be necessary to secure the southern border is a drop in the bucket once you realize that 66% of the entire U.S. budget is Social Security, welfare, and 8% is the debt that we're paying, the interest on the debt. So yes, entitlement spending and debt that this country is going into, crippling debt, as we're now currently $34 trillion in debt. And the CBO projects that by 2050, we will be $121 trillion in debt, is mostly the welfare that the Democrats keep pushing. I do agree with you in that regard, that both of these things are drops in the bucket. It is less about the hypocrisy it is less about the fact that about the hypocrisy of the Democrats spending money there but not spending it on the border, as you so point out that it easily could be done, but they refuse to do it, and in fact use the administration and the legal system to try and stop Texas from having hordes of people coming in. It's less about that hypocrisy and more about the fact that Republicans, as they become populist, yes, as they become MAGAites, as you will, they become less wanting to fund the military industrial complex. They become less trusting of the CIA and the FBI that has been used against them to suddenly trust them and all of their sources in terms of whether or not we should be funding and supporting wars. Yes, some of them even are actually consistent, as you point out, and also don't want to fund Israel dropping bombs either, because it's not about one conflict. It's not about Russian influence. Arguably, there's way more Israeli influence in our government. Just look at AIPAC. And that's true for Democrats and Republicans, than there ever could be fucking Russian influence. But at the end of the day, Republicans are turning against war. They're becoming more nationalist. They're becoming isolationists as they become populist, and they don't want to fucking fund the Klaus Schwab's plans for every goddamn function that occurs in the
okay,
foreign...
we are going to admit, though, that Republicans basically missed an absolute fucking dunk in the past couple of months, where there was a bipartisan immigration bill that actually was a healthy chunk of what they wanted.
It was a horrible bill. It was a poison pill. That's a lie.
Please tell me more. Please.
Yeah, I'll tell you more. It's very quickly. So one of the things that it did is if you took in more illegal immigrants, it required that you took in more legal immigrants. So it was designed to increase immigration. It gave a right to legal defense of all immigrants, legal or illegal, coming in, so long as they claimed asylum, which would be a massive budget increase and would also bog down the systems that are already breaking. And that's just two of many of the poison pills that Democrats themselves were bragging about. Fuck you, you progressive paid shill bitch.
Can I talk about the border thing real quick? Because this is the thing I like.
Well,
I feel like
we gotta let Rashad and counter respond to that, because that was a rant. And then we'll pass it to you and Lauren. Don't worry, I promise you. But we gotta take turns. So
listen, I'm happy to look for the poisonous Skittles inside the bowl of M&Ms or whatever the fuck. But at the same time, like I almost guarantee you that I'm gonna look it up. It's gonna be like increased funding for this, increased funding for that, securing the border, emergency amnesty. There's gonna be like half a dozen fucking features that are gonna be positive for the fucking border. You're just like pointing out the poison pills that are fucking convenient for your argument. Which, hey, good for you. I'll fucking look up mine and then I'll give you them back to you. But at the same time, like you can't tell me that we don't have like Republicans on the verge of allegedly signing this poison pill bill, and then you have them openly coming out and saying Trump told us to kill it because it's an election year and we didn't want to hand a W to fucking Biden. You understand that when you say that, like,
I agree with that. Yeah.
It was a dog shit bill, I'm a little bit fucking skeptical when we basically have Republicans ready to fucking
be skeptical.
sign it.
But if you don't know any of the things that are in the bill, then don't claim that it's a great bill.
Say that your bald head looks sexy, Connor. Thank you for the $5.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Sorry about that.
So sorry. Like if we want to get back to, we honestly, like I wouldn't mind going for like looking up the bill or whatever, but I don't want to spend like 10 minutes like reading the bill while other people argue. I'm here to argue about a specific
No, it's fine. You just said it was a great bill and then it was a failure of the Republicans.
I didn't say it was a
fucking... Oh, I mean, I've got the bill right in front of me right now.
Of poison pills.
Let's clarify what I said, because you said something that I said that I didn't fucking say.
You said they missed a golden opportunity. I apologize. A golden opportunity to support this thing, which would assume me saying it's a great bill is not that fucking far off.
Hold on. Because I don't live in fucking like ANCAP ideological land, I'm going to go ahead and fucking lay it out for you. I'm assuming that I have to work with Republicans.
Yeah, because I'm talking about ANCAP bullshit.
I'm not even close to done. You talked for fucking 10 minutes. Let me fucking talk for 2, okay? Jesus Christ. So what I'm presuming, I'm making some presumptions here, is that Republicans, because this is what was repeated all over the fucking news for months, maybe you're smarter than the fucking news, got it. But at the same time, Republicans
we're all
and
smarter than the fake news. Relax.
Yeah, listen, this is liberal talking.
Bro, if you're going to talk for fucking 10 minutes, I want to get it all out. Thank you. Or I'll
just say a sentence that isn't bullshit, you know? Yeah.
Say a sentence that isn't okay. All right, I'm just going to keep talking because you're fucking annoying. As a matter of fact, we're going to go ahead and do this. I'll just go ahead and can I mute you just for me? Okay, there we go.
Okay.
All right. So, specifically, when it comes to this, I live in a republic. I have elected representatives. These people are not perfect. A majority of them are fucking stupid fucking assholes, but at the same time, they're the best we fucking got. So they go to this place called fucking DC and they negotiate bills. And it seems like Republicans for a very long time were making this argument that the border was the most prioritized fucking thing on the planet. And within the past 6 months, there were Republicans and Democrats who were saying, we're actually really close to making something happen. This is going to be one of the most comprehensive reformation bills since fucking Reagan, since Bill Clinton. This is going to be one of the biggest things that we've done in the past 30 or 40 years. And it seems like they were on the fucking verge of signing that shit and actually getting something passed, which would have been amazing because it would have been great to have some fucking legislative movement forward. And then what happened at the very end is Republicans openly said, we are not going to sign the fucking bill for probably the 3 fucking poison pills that you fucking found. But they also openly fucking said that they weren't going to do it because it would give Biden a W and they wanted Trump to run on this shit. And guess what's going to fucking happen is if Trump wins, which by the way is not fucking guaranteed, if Trump wins, he's going to have a fucking Congress and a Senate that are going to swing back against him, and then nothing's going to get passed for another fucking half decade. So I view this as Republicans shooting themselves in the fucking foot rather than getting something productive done. Is it perfect? Probably not. I would love to sit down with you and we could read the fucking bill together for all I give a shit.
4 words.
But at the same time, we're here for fucking interventionism. Yeah.
4 words.
And we go to Gibbs.
Read the fucking bill.
Sure.
I'm looking at the bill right now.
Hold on. No. Let's fucking do this because it's 4 words. It's so goddamn easy. How many fucking pages is the goddamn bill, Fabian?
I am pretty read up on the bill.
You got that off the top of your head? Hold on. It's so fucking
No.
easy. It's 4
I don't
goddamn
have
words.
the
How
I
many
don't have
pages
the
is the bill?
I don't have the exact amount of pages for the bill.
Did
You
you read the
claimed the
bill?
bill was a
I read the
golden
bill.
opportunity.
Hold on.
Okay, well, we have-
Yeah, I read the bill before Prime. I read the bill before Prime Kai's
She's
debate.
gonna do
Yes.
Okay,
Admiral Gibbs
Wix the
says he
moderator,
read the
listen to him.
bill. Okay, we have two people
Who says?
Admiral
have
Gibbs
read the
says he
bill.
read the bill. Okay.
Okay.
So, and he has a thought
I'll
on
ask
this. I want to
Gibbs.
make sure to
Gibbs,
give. Yeah.
Was it 2 pages? Was it 10? Was it 100? Was it 300? How many pages was it?
It's long. I have the highlights here in front of me though, but like if you want them, I can post them in a link in here. It'll give you the highlights. It's from.
Okay,
don't
let
know,
me
yes.
let me say this point. I find it absurd that 4 words, read the fucking bill, is added as some kind of fucking dunk when have you read the bill, Fabian?
I told you, yes, I read the bill before a Prime Kai's
If you read the
debate.
bill, can you recall if it's a few dozen pages, if it's a half dozen, if it's 2, if it's 10, if it's 100?
I want to say it's like 150, 200, the full bill, but there's a summary that you can read as well
So,
on
okay,
Congress.gov and from several other places.
Okay, so
And then also you can just read
while-
what the Democrats were bragging about in the bill.
Okay, so while I'm raising a family, while I'm running a side hustle, while I'm working a full-time job, you expect me to pause and read 200 fucking pages in order to
No.
have a fucking debate
No,
with
there's
you
plenty
goddamn
of summary.
retards?
No,
Are
that's
you
not
shitting
what
my
I
fucking
said.
dick?
No, shut up,
You
shut up.
said read the
That's
fucking
not what I
bill.
said.
You said it was 4
Okay,
words.
okay,
There's no
okay.
nuance
Yes,
there.
yes,
It's 4
yes.
words.
Again,
Gang.
so again,
Okay, I just
Again,
want just before you respond,
plenty
I
of
just want to
summaries.
remind everyone the topic of today's show, right, is
Yeah.
GOP influence
I'll bring it back.
with
after
Ruffin,
the
right?
bill.
very, very quick.
So I
very-
GOP
understand
influence
that you guys want
on
to argue about
Mexico.
this.
I'm
But-
gonna.
Right,
I want to hit the. I'm gonna hit the bill thing, and then I'll bring it back to the Russian influence.
Yeah, go
Love
ahead,
it.
go
Waiting
ahead.
for it. Very
All right.
excited.
So the bill thing. This is the thing. There were some Republicans that voted for the bill. They wanted something on the table. As someone who's dealing with this currently, the stuff offered in the bill seems very token. Like for example, I'll give you one of the highlights of poison pill. They talk about the number of beds are going to increase. I think one of the facilities is going to be increased to 100,000. We're getting 100,000 people a month, bro. Like that's not going to cover anything, right? It's just like a token lip service. That's a big one that the Republicans down here are mad about. They want to add customs agents. They want to talk about 200 border patrol agents. That's only like the active ones, right? And not the processing ones. That's nothing. That's not going to do anything. They want to add 55 miles of border. Wow, great. You're tearing down borders we already have up. So you're going to just put border where we got. It's just like a slap in the face. The whole bill. Like if you're actually dealing with this issue, it's a problem. The bill's bad.
Okay, I'm
Right,
going to tag someone else
so-
in to talk about geopolitics.
but so when
I'll
they
start
come back-
researching the border bill for
sure, I
Ukraine
just
and
did it
Russia
to you.
debate.
Dude,
So here's the
stop,
thing
dude,
about the
stop
Ukraine.
this.
But hold on.
You
So
made a
here's
claim
the
about
thing,
the
though.
bill, and you said it was a
The bill-
golden opportunity, and I simply said,
the
no, it
bill-
wasn't. They're poison pills, and then you
Because I'm
freaked the
relying
fuck
on
out
other
and
professionals
kirked
besides
out.
a fucking douchebag and cap on fucking YouTube. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm listening to like fucking lawyers and shit.
Yeah,
But I have to
you're-
listen to
you're-
you.
yes,
the
I
ANCAP
understand.
Fucking Andy
You are-
over here.
you are-
Confirm my
you are
fucking
fucking-
resource. So yeah,
you
I
are
gotta check what
perpetuating-
say
You are
with a grain of
perpetuating a
fucking salt.
major media
guys.
fucking narrative
Yeah.
without actually
Okay,
doing any of
hold
your own
on.
research.
Hold on, I
You
don't want to
mean
start
the
reading
doctors
people.
and lawyers and media
Connor,
personalities who
stop.
are responsible for
Stop,
researching
stop,
shit
stop.
and then
Oh my
explaining
God,
it to
stop.
us?
Stop, everyone, calm down. Okay,
I just
Admiral Gibbs, I hear you. I hear you.
I
Right?
didn't even finish.
I'm going to let you finish, but once you're done, once you're finished, before anyone starts yelling at each other about being a paid shill or an ANCAP retard, I don't care about that. We're going to let Dylan get in and get his 2 cents on this. Finish your point, Gibbs, and then we'll go.
Yeah, so my point was it was that you brought up originally was that basically it was tied to the Ukraine bill, right? And as a Republican, and I look at this, right, and I see, hey, it's tied to this funding for a war overseas, which is kind of I think what Fabian was alluding to. That hey, the border is the issue I care about right now. This is a big problem, right? Whether or not we agree on what the solution was or if this bill was enough, that's it. But I see a bill, it seems poisoned, and it seems like it's just a Democratic dunking point, right, for to someone that's living here next to it. And then I see it tied to the Ukraine funding, and I'm like, hey, well, that's some bullshit. Not only is this a poison bill, they're getting like 3 times the amount that we're getting here, and we have a national disaster going down here right down here. And so, like to me, looking at that, it's hard for me not to see that. And then for y'all to turn around and say, hey, it's Russian collusion, like, come on, bro, like, come on.
Russian
like, work with me
influence.
here.
That's the new word.
Yeah, or influence.
You
Yeah,
got to keep
come
up
on,
with the
man.
media's
That's
narratives.
disingenuous. Like, yeah, like if you're like, you know what I'm
Is it
saying?
really disingenuous though? I mean,
Yes,
look at the
that's
direction
Yeah,
we're going in. Well, number one, to expect
obviously.
the Bunny to receive as much funding as a war, a conventional war, the likes of which we haven't seen since World War II, to
not
expect
our
the border
war.
to receive as much funding as that, what do you mean it's not our war? In World War II, we had the same thing. It's not our war. Then come to find out, it became our war. What we're trying to do right now is mitigate the odds of this becoming a war significant enough for us to send U.S. Marines, U.S. soldiers, sailors, airmen. We're trying to stop that from
Sure.
happening. But the
Listen, I'm
GOP's
very
current foreign policy plan would lead us toward that.
Okay.
I'm very pro proxy war, but like, come on, man, money home
Hold on.
first.
I'm gonna toss the ball to Dylan. Let Dylan get his say in, and then we'll continue on. And Lauren, if at any point you want to jump in, right? Like I know you're sitting there doing your homework, but come on, let's
No,
go.
I'm sitting here. I'm paying attention. I'm listening. I just
Okay,
wanted
we'll
to.
see.
Don't you worry.
Dylan, go ahead.
You're muted, Papa.
Yo, you're muted, bro. We can't hear you.
I was muted. Very sorry. So I came into this a little into the conversations. You'll have to forgive me for not knowing everything that was said up to this point. But I heard that they were, I think you guys were talking about the deal that was offered, the Senator Langford negotiated deal, I believe, from what you guys were talking about. And from somebody who's from more progressive circles, I came up more, I guess you could say, the left wing of the Democratic Party. Most progressives were pretty upset with the border deal compromise with Senator Langford. There was a lot of compromises that I felt, and a lot of them also felt should have been included. If you're going to do a big compromise like this, finally finding some solution for the Dreamers feels like the time to do it. If this is the time where we're going to spend 5 months to negotiate a deal like this. And so a lot of progressives, including progressives who made their voices vocal in the Senate and vocal in the House, made clear that they were unhappy with it and were not going to vote in favor of it, and proceeded to make clear to not only Senate leadership, but the public that they weren't going to vote in favor of it. And then it was crushed and it was sunk. And I look at it like this. In a year from now, next time when Republicans maybe might have a chance to have the Senate and we'll still have the House and might be able to, try to push something like H.R. 2, even if it's just a posturing bill and it's definitely not the type of thing that would actually pass. If they try to get many of the things that were offered in this deal, the Democrats will not offer it again. The Democrats will have no leverage used against them like what was being used in the Ukraine instance, which I think shouldn't have happened in the first place. I think it's kind of scary to tie crucial national security issues to things that are extremely divisive in domestic politics. I could imagine, should we support the South Koreans? I don't know. Maybe if you compromise with me on the Don't Say Gay bill. That's something that makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable. I think like we should have standalone votes on this, which Mike Johnson said at the start of his term in a concession to Matt Gaetz is what he would do. He didn't like to do all these big bundle bills because he was sick of the big government, but then immediately asked for a big bundle bill as a compromise. And so it really is frustrating to me as definitely somebody who's very supportive of Ukraine aid that this has gotten in the way of something that should just have a straight up and down vote.
Can I ask a question, Dylan?
Sure.
Because I know you're coming in late, and so I don't want to like accuse you of like not doing something, of doing something you're not trying to do, right? I appreciate.
To be clear, I've heard literally just the last 10 minutes of conversation. That's
right,
it.
right.
And
So
I was a last second replacement.
Right. So I understand you're just kind of elucidating this specific thing, but the topic in hand is whether or not this is Russian influence, right? Whether or not the Russians are the real reason that many of the Republicans are not voting for this Ukraine aid, et cetera, et cetera. And so, like, I mean, let me be clear. You were just adding that for context to say, hey,
I can add this was separate.
Either.
This was just my opinion on the negotiated bill, negotiated settlement. It's something that's concerning because I could imagine like we're having a negotiation about whether it's a good idea to intervene in Mexico, and then the Democrats say, well, if you want to do that, then you have to introduce Roe v. Wade on the federal level if you want to stop the cartels.
It's been a problem forever. Like Bernie Sanders got hit on it because he didn't want to vote for there was a renewal of like the national firearms or act or something was like tied to domestic violence against women act at the exact same time, and like he voted one down for one reason, and then Hillary Clinton was trying to browbeat him over it, and it's like, dude, these two things were tied together. Like I either had to support, I had to.
It was a very silly attack on Bernie. I remember having to argue with my progressive colleagues over it. Like, you can't blame gun manufacturers for things that end up being. It was a very strange time at the Bernie camp. But on the issue you're talking about,
but you want to hit women, right? Like it's like
Bernie was
this gang. we can talk about how Bernie may or may not have voted on the domestic violence against women.
As for Russian infiltration, right? I could go down into rabbit holes of like, well, Mike Johnson took this money from this specific pro-Russian oligarch, but all of that is reading a lot into intention, and also those funds were given back. And in a lot of these instances, you'll find like $20,000 given, then they find a discrepancy, then they give it back. And did they find a discrepancy? Only did they give it back just because it was found? Did they give it back because they genuinely cared? It's impossible for me to read into all these stories. So I'll put aside all the financial stuff. What I will say is I do think that Russian narratives have taken hold in some of the right-wing ecosphere's loudest voices. Now, whether these people are the loudest voices because they're the people with the most power, or they're the loudest voices because sometimes the dumbest people are the loudest in the room. We're talking about people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who was going on cable news talking about how the Ukrainians were harvesting the organs of babies in order to try to fund the war effort, or Vivek Goswami, who was running saying that, oh, the weapons we're sending over are being sent over to the cartels, or Robert F. Kennedy and Tucker Carlson republishing fake Russian casualty data. Like, these types of things do enter into the ecosphere. They do affect how bases or people see the war, and it does affect people, whether we like it or not, who also vote on this legislation. I think we need to think that our legislators, while we'd like to think they're experts on the issues, a lot of them are getting just as much garbage as the rest of us off of Twitter. Tommy Tuberville is an example of somebody who I've seen constantly kind of fuck up, learn something wrong and just repeat it and then fix it afterwards. And he is somebody who was taking talking points straight out of the voice of Vladimir Putin after the Tucker interview, repeating it verbatim and taking it as face value as an American senator. And I thought that was pretty embarrassing.
I don't necessarily disagree with you, but what you just said could also be said of Israel, of China, of the United Kingdom.
Yeah,
Saudi Arabia.
This is true.
That level of influence just means
if you want me,
country
I can
has
clarify
power.
Quickly. That I'm not saying that Russia is the only country that is influencing us in this way. What I will say is that the Russian intelligence apparatus does make it a part of their information war. Now, again, they're not the only country that does this, but it is part of their information warfare apparatus in order to influence both American elections and trying to create discontent within the United States. A common story that we saw a lot during the Black Lives Matter movement was that there was a pro-BLM rally organized by somebody who never actually showed up to the rally, and then a counter-protest of somebody who also didn't show up to the rally, and then we find out afterwards it was just Russian intelligence trying to get two people who hate each other in the same area to beat the fuck out of each other. Why the Russians do this? Well, there's a lot of speculation as to why, but I can speculate a little myself. I think part of it is if we're concentrated.
The Russians were influencing BLM. That sounds like it'd be influencing the Dems then in that regard. Wow.
Although they influence not only Republicans, they've influenced the far left. Their big thing, 100%, is influencing the fringes of society or areas that can cause discontent within the United States. Especially if it can just cause something like decision atrophy. For example, making it so there's so much, discontent in America. We're dealing so much with our internal problems. We look only internally and we don't look outward. For example, into Ukraine.
Okay, I wanted to kind of maybe have a question to kind of recenter this, because we talk a lot about influence, how every country tries to influence the United States and its populace and things like that. That may be true. But I guess what I would ask Rashad, since Rashad is the one that brought me this topic, Rashad, in what ways does Russia influence the GOP, the MAGAites, as you call them, that is unique or especially dangerous? Can you elucidate that for us, please?
I think the most interesting and fascinating way in which they do it is through information. It allows them to almost hold the Republican Party hostage in a really unique way, where once the base is convinced of these populist, uninformed, ridiculous foreign policy ideas, the politicians who run for office then find themselves being basically held ideologically and even policy-wise hostage to a base of people who don't understand foreign policy or politics at all. So then when you're running for office, you have to basically pander to these people who don't know what they're talking about, don't know what to expect in terms of proper foreign policy, and it affects Republican foreign policy, in a very clear way. You have Vivek Ramaswamy getting up in public and saying lies like Ukraine banned Christianity. When you have a strong Christian base like conservative white America, they hear that and say, I don't want my money going to that. But that's not true information. But when you're a Republican politician running for office, you will be held liable to this information, and you then have to base your policy around what the base wants.
You muted yourself.
Muted yourself.
Connor, you're muted.
And then we're gonna go Connor, then Lauren once in. So
okay, well, I've been researching fucking southern border fucking legislation for the past 10 goddamn minutes. So...
Before
no,
hold on,
Wick,
is your point on that? Because I don't want to go on that right now.
No, I'm gonna force you. I'm gonna force our relationship. This is it. Fucking dickhead McGee over here fucking brought that shit up. I'm gonna fucking force it. So
you brought it
dickhead
up,
McGee,
bitch.
Yeah, and I'm gonna fucking hit you with this shit.
Before
Tell
you
me
go,
your fucking poison pills again.
Before that, we're gonna let Lauren go then, because if Lauren has something on the point that Rashad just made, I'd like to hear it. And then
I
you
will
can
quickly
derail
catch
us
up to the
forever.
point after my rant.
Yes.
No, let him rant.
Oh, Lauren's just, I guess she's here.
Okay, give me your poison pills again.
I'm listening a lot today because I feel like a lot of what you guys are spewing is just like propaganda that each side has debunked and negated. So it's very difficult because we're not even playing with the same facts here.
Okay, I read like 12 facts. I want to hear Fabian's 2 or 3 facts.
Okay, yeah. The 2 that I gave you off the top of my head was that if you bring in an increase in illegal immigration, then you must also bring in an increase in legal immigration. That if you process illegal immigrants, that it requires an expansion of legal immigration. I don't remember what the second one was, but I think probably the more powerful one was. I'm sorry, what?
I'm listening.
It's 609 pages, by the way, the bill.
It depends on which. There's another one that's 300. There's another one that's 200. There's a summary that's like 12.
I read like 10 in the past 10 minutes. So sorry. Please give me your second poison pill.
And I believe the second one, was it funding Ukraine was tied to it, or was it another one? I can't remember.
No,
I can't remember what the other one was.
And Israel was tied to it. Okay. All right. So I'm going to take your poison pills. I'm going to tell you what you're getting. So there's 2 poison pills of cyanide poison inside the bowl of candy. And they're Skittles covered in cyanide.
It was demanded. It was the demand for legal representation.
The whole bill is poison. Just for the record.
Legal representation, fantastic. I have counterpoints for both of these, so I am loving that we're on the same page now as far as facts go. Okay, so you told us the bad side. I'm going to tell you what you're allegedly getting as the good side. Okay. So right now, there's no shutdown process for the border. Any person who crosses in the United States of America, if they're detained by a Border Patrol agent, then they have to be processed by the legal system.
Oh, wow.
If more than, hold on. If more, that has nothing to do with my fucking point. Anyways, if 5,000 people a day report to ports of entry or are tracked as crossing the border, it can trigger an automatic shutdown that the executive branch can put in, meaning that anybody who does not report to a port of entry is auto-kicked out. So you have tens of thousands of people who are auto-kicked out by the new bill. Second thing, people cannot claim asylum unless they... Hold on, I'm literally reading a summary of the fucking bill right now. Okay.
No. What you said about the bill is true. The consequence that you claimed, which is that tens of thousands would automatically be kicked out, is something you just made up from that. There are 29 ports of entry in Texas alone. I have
12 other points. Can you
if they're legally allowed to come in, they'll just go there.
Wick.
Fabian, just get a piece of paper and write down your points
You're on
and
point
to respond
1.
later.
Yeah.
So can I please have an uninterrupted fucking 2 minutes to read the goddamn points and he can write them down? Thank you.
Age match.
Okay. So people cannot claim asylum unless they go to a fucking port of entry. If you cross the border, you can't later claim asylum. That's one of the asterisks that's part of the bill. Bar to meet the asylum standard is raised, meaning that right now, 96% of fucking people don't meet asylum standards, but they still have to be processed. Gibbs, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, he's going to go on his rant for 2 minutes. Let him go.
The bar to meet asylum standards is raised, meaning that you can kick more people out of the system more quickly. There's a preliminary screening process, whereas right now you have to be walked through the entire process. Whereas right now they're doing a pre-screening for like refugee-based fear, meaning that they're going to kick more people out of the system faster. 100,000 beds, like Admiral Gibbs fucking said. You're saying it's not a fucking big deal? I think 100,000 beds is a decent logistical bite out of what's going on, at least for those 100,000 people who get to sleep in the fucking bed. Increase in work visas. This goes to what you were talking about with the mandatory illegal versus legal entry. What it says is the expectation is that we're going to have a correlative increase in family and work visas, meaning that what we're trying to do is we're trying to make sure that the people that actually come here are productive citizens who have ties to the community, so we're not bringing in fucking criminals. Then 20 billion more for physical security. The wall only costs 21 billion. Don't know if you remember that. I don't give a fuck if it's a wall, if it's fucking razor wire and cameras, God bless them. Then 1,300 new border agents. The border wall is only 3,000 miles long. That's one new boot on the ground per 3 miles. That's a 6% increase in the entire total amount of boots on the ground. Y'all acting like this is fucking nothing is retarded.
Okay, we good? Okay, go ahead, gang.
I'm about to have a heart attack. I need to take a break. But yeah, I'm listening.
Okay.
I like.
Who wants to respond to that? Because I do have a couple of things to.
Lauren, go ahead. You've been
Please.
silent most
Been
of
very
the
quiet.
I'm gonna take some Tums.
Yeah, it's just very hard to. You do recognize that Biden has been flying illegals around the country, like secretly, without any legal precedent and
Well,
without
not so secretly.
Correct. Yeah. Well,
Good. Put them in blue
failing
cities.
secretly. Okay, but so even it doesn't seem like they're actually applying any of these standards, and a lot of the people that they're coming, the standards may be raised, but if they're not going to be applying the standards and they're not applying the standards now, then what makes you think that raising the standards will change anything? And then also the cost of the wall, we already set aside under Trump, we already set aside all of the materials, all of the cost for the wall. It was the Biden administration who actually spent money to store the materials instead of putting up the wall. It would have cost more to not build the wall at that point than it would to actually build the wall. And so now adding
Where did they
more
get the money
cost, in fact,
from?
10 times the more cost to build the wall under this bill is wild. And then 1,300 new border agents. We're having an entire invasion right now. I understand that a 6% increase would be great, but we need a huge increase, especially with so many who were fired due to the.
What's happening?
I know. I just like there's so many things I want to respond to that, but it's all this border bill related. Everything Connor said, it's I feel like, but I'm just gonna stop. I just feel like Luke Skywalker in the worst Star Wars movie ever made. It's amazing. Everything you just said is wrong. So
Can I just?
I'm not.
I literally just read a bill
Wait.
summary. These are bullet points from the bill summary.
I know,
You can't
and
just
the-
say it's
yeah,
wrong.
I mean, I know, but it's Russia debate day. So I'm gonna not engage.
I think
Awesome.
Connor.
All right, so hold
I
on.
think
So I want to
Connor's-
summarize this real quick.
Stop.
They brought up 3 points.
Stop. Okay. Summarize real quick. Then I want to go Dylan, then Rashad, then Fabian. Go ahead.
Okay. They brought up 3 points that were negative. I brought up 12 that were positive. They said it's cringe anyways. That was a sum total of the fucking argument.
All right, I mean, fine.
It's
you
not.
want me to really break it down? That's not. All right, so all right, let's first.
Let's
talk
do
about-
it next week.
Hold on, pause.
Next
We don't
week,
need to
that's
break
fine,
down.
that's
any-
fine.
We don't.
Yeah,
We don't
let's
need
do
to break
that.
it down. We don't need
Let's
to tit
do
for
that.
tat.
I
It's
agree.
very simple. It's very simple. Connor, you
Yeah.
came in and you said Republicans missed this golden opportunity. We said, hey, there are some poison pills here that for
The whole thing's poison.
for conservatives where they would go, no, this isn't good enough. Then what you did is you spurged out, got pissy about it, went on several fucking, I'm doing all this, blah, blah, and then you gave us a list of a few things that you believe are positive, but that doesn't outweigh a fucking poison pill. It doesn't matter how many good things you put forward if it's tied to forcing Republicans that are anti-war to not support wars. And it also has things in it that some conservatives legitimately believe would make the problem worse. It doesn't matter if there's 6% increased funding here or some beds here or some increase to services here, especially if you're a fucking small government conservative and you don't want increases in taxes. It's retarded that you think this is a dunk. Like, it's just you fucking trying to come back from a cope.
Retarded is you thinking that you're smarter
Oh my
than like
God.
a host
No one
of
listens
fucking
to me.
lawyers, pundits, fucking people who analyze this shit all the fucking time.
I'm a lawyer.
You're smarter than everybody. Everybody.
Let's give
You
it. Let's
figured it out.
let's
Nobody
support
fucking else.
Dylan for a moment. He had something to say. Go ahead.
So I just want to throw out there, that this bill was negotiated originally because everybody in the pro-Ukraine camp which was the majority of senators, the majority of people in the Congress, but because of the small majority that Mike Johnson held after the hellscape that was the Republican leadership race, he needed to get concessions on other issues in order for him to please certain members of his base, which at the time were at the fringe. Maybe they're still at the fringe, maybe they're becoming more embedded, who knows, about making these concessions tied to Ukraine. That's the only way they can get it through. Now, that shouldn't have been done in the first place. But if that is done and they're saying, this is what we need to do, Mike Johnson says, I support Ukraine, we won't abandon them, but you have to give us concessions on this. We enter into negotiations for 5 months. But if those are the conditions under which you are making the Democrats and the Republicans negotiate, and you're doing it under that type of time span in 5 months, of course they're not going to come out with a deal that pleases everybody. They're never going to come out with a deal that pleases everybody, period. But especially under these types of conditions where you're making them come together to negotiate. But you're not going to get anything if you don't take the deal. You're not going to get anything through the election. Trump doesn't want anything to be done until the election. And so you can thumbs up all those undocumented immigrants coming across the border and doing nothing in the meantime. And then if Democrats win in November, you know what's going to happen?
Yeah,
you know what's going to happen if Democrats win in November? Let me finish.
The Biden administration demanded that this bill.
I'm hearing some chip, and it's getting in my ear.
Is it your own bullshit?
If the Democrats win in November, the Democrats will design immigration policy with no Republicans at the table. They'll have no incentive to have Republicans at the table because Republicans, when they did even hold the House, not the Senate, not the presidency, didn't want to make a deal, even when they forced the deal by tying it to a national security issue, which they shouldn't have done in the first place. Fine, it sunk, but then just let the Ukraine aid have a vote if you were going to do this bullshit in the first place.
This is all bullshit. Listen, this has nothing to do with Russian influence. The idea that politicians playing fucking the same games they've been playing for 100 years, or at the very least since senators were elected, I'll say, right? The idea that they have been playing these same games that they've been playing, this good government, pork barrel, compromise across the aisle, has nothing to do with Russian influence, number one. And number two, it's founded upon so much bullshit. And you know it's bullshit because the Biden administration said, we need this bill in order to do anything about the southern border. And now all of a sudden that the bill's not going through, the Biden administration is like, oh, I guess I can make some promises for some executive action. So it turns out they didn't need the fucking bill anyways. Yes, Republicans are liars, Democrats are liars.
That's not true at all.
That's two parties trying to negotiate.
Hold on, we got like 3 people.
To me, I thought it was my
You
turn.
fucking retard.
Okay,
we got 3 people trying to talk. Rashad hasn't been in a minute. We're gonna pass the ball to Rashad, and then I'm gonna let the rest of you go. Go ahead.
I mean, the reality is that the base is being influenced by the pundits, by the media, and that is going to affect Republican policy. And Republican policy, as it stands right now, is greatly benefiting our enemy, Russia. And to argue that what's going on in, Washington right now is just politics as usual, the data currently shows that we have passed about 27 bills in 2023, the least since the Great Depression. And if I recall correctly, the main faction derailing proper legislation in our country is the MAGA faction, the same faction currently peddling pro-Russia nonsense, entertaining characters like Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, who've been peddling pro-Russia nonsense that influences our foreign policy, which weakens our ability to stand by our allies, to maintain a strong global posture. At the beginning of this debate, we spoke about Joe Biden's weak foreign policy, his weak posture. This is the same faction of the Republican Party that wants to show Russia and its buddies, Iran and China, hey, if you invade a country, we actually won't fund them. And if we do fund them, we'll fund them for a really small period of time. So just calculate your expenses and really just strategize around how long we'll support them, because our base no longer wants to support foreign endless wars, and we don't want to be caught up in conflict. Right now, the current MAGA base that you're copying so many pleas for are derailing American strength on a global level, and you can shift this as much to Biden as you want, but currently the Republican Party is pussy, bitch made, and that's facts.
Right. So your argument is this is a bad governments, and that this is and the MAGA crowd is bad because we have passed less bills. I cannot imagine a more authoritarian stance a human could have than to know that the evidence that the government isn't good is that it hasn't increased laws and legislation, and it hasn't that it hasn't come together. Like when you have less bills, that means that you have more consensus. Yes. Is there potential political polarization? Yes, obviously. Is there going to be some infighting? Yes. Do politics change in terms of what people care about? And are the political parties having some shifts? Yes. But the fact of the matter is that nowhere in that long-winded statement did you ever come close to getting anything close to the fucking topic, which is where the Russia influence is. You just say,
I just told you, dumbass.
Happens. No, you fucking retard. Saying that X helps B.
If anybody's retarded in this room, it's you. If anybody is retarded in this room, it's you. If anyone is lacking in intelligence, it's you. Basic logic. So you believe that it's beneficial for the American people for less laws to be passed, for less people to be taken care of.
Hey, Kathy
you
Newman.
actually believe that's functioning government.
Kathy Newman.
That's not what I said. XTG. Marjorie Taylor Greene. That's what you are. That's what you are here today. You think a functioning government is like
you don't understand the reference. I understand that.
Crazy.
Listen. When it's very simple. It's very simple. Your argument is these actions, or rather inactions by the Republican Party, stopping actions, helps Russia. Therefore, this is irrefutable proof that Russia is in control and or influences the Republicans. There is a massive fucking leap there.
Do you deny the influence?
Circumstantial.
Yes or no? Do you deny the influence?
I said in the very beginning that what you mean by influence, that you could say by Russia, is no different than what you could say about Saudi Arabia, Israel, China, UK, France.
Oh,
Australia.
is it?
And in fact, it's much more evidence that countries such as Israel or countries such as the UK have far more influence on our politics.
And you think their influence is having a much more negative effect than Russia's? I think Russia's influence is having a much more negative effect. Look at our foreign policy.
Russia ain't doing shit.
You're saying, what is their influence, dude?
What do you mean
their influence is what? 2000 Twitter
the largest
bots?
war in Europe since World War II.
No big deal.
What is that? How does that influence us?
I can't hear. I didn't hear a single word you said.
Okay,
not a word.
So what I would like to point out, because I think it needs to be remarked before we moved on, is that what Fabian described before calling us all retarded in the fucking room was two parties negotiating, having to bite down on bullets that they didn't want to bite down on, that ideological purists wouldn't enjoy. Yeah, welcome to a fucking democratic republic, you fucking asshole. We don't pass ideological fucking bills. We pass bills based off of compromise and based off of what makes neither side happy but actually achieves mutually shared goals. Also, I would like to back up my fucking
I know what that
brother
is.
from another mother over here, Mr. Crenshaw.
Has nothing to do with my argument.
Hold on. Yeah, it fucking did, because you literally described liberal fucking democracy and republicanism, and then you called it cringe and retarded. We're all retarded. You're the fucking brain genius over here. Then what Mr. Crenshaw said that I absolutely fucking agree with is that
Make an argument,
when
bitch.
you're in a functioning, when you're in a functioning republic and there are crises going on, a sign of health within a republic is the intelligentsia of that republic coming together in order to pass bills that benefit everyone. But what we effectively
Politicians
have,
are not the intelligentsia.
what we have had, shut the fuck up. What we have had is we've had a fringe corner of the Republican fucking movement that only represents less than 20% of the fucking population, effectively holding the rest of the population hostage. So yeah, I would see this as a republic in decline due to the actions of selfish assholes.
This makes no sense. So there's several problems with your argument. So first of all,
I'd love to
intelligentsia are not politicians, right? You could argue that before the 17th Amendment that the Senate
Are they
would be
smarter
the intelligentsia.
than the people who work at fucking Walmart?
Smarter than the people that work at Walmart? Probably, yeah, I'll give them that. But they're not that much smarter than the average person. They're certainly not the intelligentsia. The intelligentsia would make up, those with PhDs that are, at the top of private.
This is the least important part of my argument, but please continue.
So, no, I understand. So I'll set that aside. So understanding that, the second thing that I would say is the entire first thing that you made isn't really an argument. So I guess I'll set that aside. Yes, I'm an ANCAP. Cool. You use that as a chance to shit on me, but I'm the one doing an internal critique, and
you literally described the legislative process, and then you said that it was dumb.
Okay. No, I didn't. I didn't say that the legislative process was dumb.
Fabian,
I do agree with that.
Concise, Fabian. Get to your point, Fabian, because I want to get some other people in. Concise.
Right. And so the next thing, whilst describing how based republicanism is, right, where the concept is that in order for things to pass, there needs to be compromise. You also said that there is a corner of the Republican Party that represents roughly a fifth of the country, and they're stopping compromise. That is by fucking design in constitutional republics. That's literally by design. You just described your process, which you said I was stupid for calling stupid, which I didn't, but I will now, which is fine. And then you later made the exact opposite argument, which is that how dare one section of the Republican Party hijack on behalf of 20% of the fucking population. If 20% of the population don't like something, okay, and then the other 80% can't get 50%, guess what that means? That means you don't have the will of the people under this fucking Rousseau kind of social contract theory bullshit that you support anyways. So even under an internal critique, you contradict yourself. You just spout bullshit, dude. Make a fucking argument.
Wrong.
This doesn't make any sense.
I would like to make an
Okay.
argument.
Right
Wait,
with that-
I would
that
like to make an
argument.
argument. I would like to make an argument.
Briefly, then
I
I got
do-
super chats.
From a philosophical perspective, I think I could agree that you don't want to have some legislation fucking process that is, basically contrary to the interest of 20% of the fucking population. And when they drag their feet, you should probably listen to them. I think in principle, I agree with you. However, I think that this 20% of the fucking population is retarded and deserves to be called
Oh, okay.
actively fucking retarded.
Thank God.
It's not 20%.
The
It's
reason
obviously
why-
50%.
And it's not 50% because
Not
45% of the Republican Party is not MAGA and a third of the country doesn't vote. So it's not fucking 20% of the. I don't even think it's
there we
20%
go.
of the fucking population.
More failures of
If you
constitutional
guys
republics.
make
All right,
me
got
do
it.
math
No,
on this
no,
panel, I'm going to be very upset at you. Okay, I don't want
If
to
we
do
what?
fractions and percentages right now. What I want to do is make some money. So I'm going to read my super chats real quick, and then we'll get back to the actual debate at hand. Okay, cameraman 502 for $5. When was the last time Democrats dropped items like amnesty? Not sure we should be coddling unpatriotic nationalists since they won't do jack. $5 from Artemis Fowl. Passing laws just to pass laws is not a proper form of government. Israel is having a substantial negative effect on the Democratic Party. $5 more from Artemis Fowl. MAGA isn't a fringe of the Republican Party. Majority of the Republican Party votes for Trump in primaries more than 2-1. And there we go. Okay, back to the matter. And thank you for the gift sub, Admiral Gibbs. Really appreciate you.
Okay.
And then back to the matter at hand, gang. I want
So-
to really set, we are getting, my frustration here is we are being very pedantic, and I want to just the concept. So the concept is there is a emergency happening. We can either take this from the Ukraine or on the border. In both cases, it is being painted as an emergency. And in both cases, because people are dragging their feet, we are unable to act because we have, again, this one might say a broken system. I want to ask the panel, right? Is this a good thing and a sign of a healthy republic? And B, right? Is this due to foreign influences? Yes or no? And that's where we're going to go.
Okay, so I want to finish that concept while answering your question. So we have a crisis. We can't act. Is it good that some people can hold the fucking ball or whatever? Yes. The fact that people who have convening interests being able to articulate their views in a republic, I think is healthy. We shouldn't just be able to ram legislation past these people, right? That's not what a liberal democracy is about. However, while saying that, that is not mutually exclusive with publicly bullying these fucking people for having retarded perspectives. So for instance, if 20% of the population is holding the country legislatively hostage and then they get 80% of what they want, but they don't get the remaining 20%, and then they still turn over the fucking board game, throw a tantrum and walk away, you can call them crybaby, illogical, bitch-ass fucking pussies who don't have an understanding of geopolitics or the fucking economy or immigration or fucking anything. And that is also a good thing within a democratic republic, is bullying your fucking retarded opposition.
Lauren, you're being bullied and called a retard. How do you respond?
Well, I am autistic, so I get it a lot. I feel that. But I just think, I think the whole concept that 20% of the nation is holding the other 80% hostage, that phraseology shows to me like an exceedingly like a very lack of understanding of our basic foundings of this country and how we didn't want a populist group to just dominate people with other ideas. 20% is a large chunk. That's 1 out of 5 people. And also, I think the MAGA group is significantly larger than 20%. Maybe their constituents only make up 20% of the power, but a lot of people are MAGA. It's definitely not just 1 out of 5 people in this nation. Furthermore,
Probably is.
yeah, call us retards all you want, but you're complaining that there's only been 27 bills passed since 2023, and this is the lowest it's been since, what did you say?
Great Depression.
Great Depression.
100 fucking years.
That doesn't necessarily mean that
That's y'all. That's y'all. It is y'all.
It just means that we're not, like, the left and right aren't cooperating very well, and that we're disagreeing a lot. It doesn't mean that one side is holding the other side hostage.
But I would view
You're
that,
holding all of
as
them
an
hostage.
ideological issue if you get 80% of a fucking decent border bill and then you're like, 3 things are wrong, go fuck yourself. That's
It's
a
not
problem.
3 things are wrong. It's not that 3 things are wrong, and I think that you're being purposely obtuse here. It's that there's a poison in the pill. There's things that no conservative.
Could you find a perfect bill that fits everybody's demands?
These things
Have
Even
you
if
ever?
99% of the bill is great, if 1% is completely detrimental to everything conservatives believe in, they're not going to vote. So, for instance, you can have a bill that's going to be like, Donald Trump will be automatically made president, and the border will be made, and all Democrats will have to have their mouths closed for an entire week, but abortions will be legal. And I bet you, like, abortions for everybody. Abortions. Then I bet you conservatives wouldn't want that bill, even though it seems like everything you would want.
The 2 poison pills that were cited in this debate, was funding for Ukraine and Israel. That is not a poison pill to anybody except for isolation.
Yes, it is.
Nobody gives a fuck.
It is not a poison pill.
By the way, to be clear, the whole reason this debate was happening in the first place is because it was tied to this issue.
And then the second poison pill was that it was going to increase legal immigration, which, when I read the bill summary, was increasing the fucking working legal visas for people to come here, basically increasing the quality of American immigrants. So, to be clear, there could be other poison pills that I'm unaware of, but increasing the quality of immigrants and funding our allies were the 2 poison pills that MAGA isolationists simply cannot swallow.
Right, let me.
Which
I love you, buddy, but we got to get more
pussies.
people in. We got to let more people in. I love you, buddy. Right? I know you want to fight them all, and we'll get there. But we got other people waiting in the wings. Admiral Gibbs is going to go crazy if he doesn't get a say. We're going to give Admiral Gibbs a microphone, and then we're going to let Dylan respond, and that's how we're going to go.
So first, I want to say, as to your question, I think it is not a sign of influence of Russia, right? I think the Republic is working as intended. It's purposely designed to be slow. That is what it's always been. There's a reason why it's set up that way. That's how it protects government. You want small government. You want it to move slow. You don't want rapid change quickly. Then to your argument, 20% of us are just retarded and we're holding up bill. We don't know what's best for it. I really want to take offense to that. And like, this is the issue. You're sitting here and you're reading to me these things that you think are pro good things on the bill, right? But you're not here. Like, I can literally go 200 feet, and if y'all challenge me to do this after, I can go outside. There's a migrant camp just around the corner. Like, there's literally a migrant camp. I talk about it all the time. I have videos of it. Like, it's there, right? So, like, this is a problem we're dealing with. There's not enough infrastructure, right? So then when you're going to sit here and you're going to tell me, as somebody living, I don't know where you are, but I know you're north. You're sitting here, someone up north going, hey, buddy, let me come down and tell you what's going on down there. And you know what's best for you. These are the things you need. And we're going, oh, these 50 new judges are going to cut down last year's stuff. Great. That's really good. I'm happy those 50 new judges are going to help. It's an 8-year list, 8-year waiting process for some of these asylums. So that's just ludicrous that you're going to sit here and say that's enough of anything. Oh, like, I mean, I could go point by point, literally for everything in the bill, and it's every single one's a poison pill. And so, like, whenever you're sitting here saying this is a good bill, that just shows to me that you do not have any real idea of what is happening down here. And I'm willing to discuss this on a different panel, like, and we can go back and forth about it. But like, if it's Russian collusion, it's bad. It's not a thing. It's a left wing lie, and it's ironic because they're sitting here in collusion with everybody.
I need to dismantle this point because it was pointed at me. Number one, my entire extended family, well, not my entire extended family, a healthy chunk of my extended family is in Texas. So no, it's not like I'm unaware of what happens on the fucking border. Number two, I live in fucking Orlando. I'm awash in Venezuelans and Cubans and
It's
Puerto
insane.
Ricans
That's
and
insane.
all the brown masses of the fucking world. I see them every goddamn day. So acting like having Hispanic people around you is an existential fucking crisis.
Hispanic.
I get it. It's fucking annoying. Sometimes they throw trash out their cars. They play their music too fucking loud. I fucking get it. They're annoying. It's not an existential threat to the fucking country.
And the barbacoa is great. Like, I mean, like, where are you going with this? I mean, like,
I'm saying I'm being more racist than you while dismissing your concerns. I do like. I think
I'm Hispanic,
that
so I can't be
it
racist
is.
to my own people.
Well, you can. You absolutely can because you definitely look white, and there's a whole like racial hierarchy within the Hispanic community as far as who's more Spaniard versus who's indigenous. However, the point being that you guys are bringing up how this isn't enough. I agree with you entirely. I think that we need to fucking borderline launch a neocon fucking Central American war on drugs.
Define poison pill.
Unite the entire fucking continent. I understand the concept of.
We're delineating way too far from the topic.
I'm just saying.
This is so dumb.
I'll define it for you. You asked. I'll define it for you. I'll define it for you. So you're saying that even if 80% of the fucking bill is good, the remaining 20% is so bad it ruins the 80%.
That's literally what a fucking poison pill is.
Enough.
You keep acting like if you do a leftist.
I told it to you.
Right. Exactly. So you're acting like every conservative. Listen. I understand. Listen.
Fabian, and we're gonna take a minute. Right. I get it. I love immigration as a topic. It's a great topic. We're not talking about immigration tonight, at least not directly. Let's get back on the topic. Thank you, MOC Gaming Bot, for the other gift sub. Let's toss it to Dylan and let's toss it to Rashad, and hopefully they can get us back on topic.
I think, man, there's a bunch of things I want to address. So I'll try to be quick because I don't want to take up too much time. But the first thing, as for a sign of a broken system, I think that there's a certain level of partisanship, especially around elections, that is making it so it's much harder for our country to deal with issues that we have, especially if it means it might look like you have to cooperate with the other side, or it could possibly benefit the incumbent. Because if there's a positive economic indicator, does that benefit Joe Biden or does it benefit Donald Trump? And if you look at every single political issue through that spectrum, then you could very quickly end up rooting against the president of the United States, rooting against the country to succeed, which you should never do because we're all in this ship together, and you might not like the captain, but if that ship goes down, all of us go down. And so when I see the bill in large part being reportedly sunk because Trump didn't like it being done in an election year, outside of whether you think one part is a poison pill, another part is a poison pill, the parts that you think are the poison pill is the stuff that was supposed to be originally passed independently anyway, again, like it should have. But that, to me, is a sign of a broken level of partisanship.
I can make that go back to Ukraine and Russia.
Yeah, but that shows a certain level of broken partisanship, especially if that broken partisanship is being introduced into issues that concern our national security. As for foreign influence, again, I do think foreign influence, particularly Russian influence, is affecting the conversation around the war, and how it affects the conversation around the war has also affected our legislators who are making decisions. I mean, Marjorie Taylor Greene, as much as we might laugh at her, was made temporary House Speaker by, I was about to say Kevin McCarthy, by Mike Johnson. She was given positions of power out of respect because she was with one of the people who jumped on ship for him early, just like she was given positions of power under Kevin McCarthy's reign because she jumped on ship for him when he wanted her to jump on ship for him. And so these people who believe these things about organ harvesting babies, they have more influence, and sometimes outsized influence, because with ignorance usually comes a loud mouth. Foreign influence.
Question, Dylan.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I thought you were finished. So quick question. It seems your primary argument towards the concept of influence, which I think we all agree that there's some level of influence that all of these powerful countries with intelligence apparatus have on us, is based upon information and misinformation.
Mostly information warfare. I mean, there are certain hacking and cyber operations, but that doesn't have to directly deal with the Republican Party.
Right, for sure. Well, the GOP.
Well, in some instances with WikiLeaks hacks, possibly, but mostly with this. Yeah.
From a sociological perspective, you can make the argument of systems theory, where like the electorate affects the GOP affects the electorate, and there's like a symbiotic relationship. So if like information warfare attacks Twitter and a bunch of Republicans believe something, eventually the GOP will respond to the beliefs.
The number
of the
one
Oh my God,
but
TV. I mean, like I was really, I had like two
Yes,
other points,
so-
but I've been waiting very patiently. You know.
Oh, I'm sorry. You made a long point. So I'll just quick question then.
Let's not
if
complain
that
about long
is your-
points, Fabian. Come on.
Yeah, it's okay. So relax. You're glad to have me. So,
Glad to have all of you.
So I appreciate you too. All right. So if information is kind of the main crux here of influence, would you at least admit that like America receives far more information, much of which is propagandized from, let's say, Israel or UK or countries that are aligned in the Five Eyes, right? Where we actually share intelligence, right? Like, yes, our allies who also lie to us constantly.
It depends on the type of information and on the certain platforms. But in certain areas, like in lobbying, I would say Israel is much more effective in that type of influence than the Russians are, especially since the Russians have a lot more sanctions placed on them. But when it comes to misinformation campaigns, not saying the Israelis are completely above that, the Russians are very good at that, and they've been perfecting that for over the last decade.
So you do believe, and this isn't even like a gotcha or anything, you do believe that the Russians are far better at putting out misinformation and getting the American electorate to believe misinformation with than let's say Israel?
I have much more experience with the Russians than I do the Israelis, and it comes from personal experience of them lying about stories I have worked on, where I get bombed. And then they take clips from that, and then they post that and say, hey, look, you're Dylan, you're an Azov soldier doing a landing. You weren't an aid worker. And seeing them do that in real time makes me at least have a certain level of, yes, I do believe that they're really aggressive.
You probably have a bias there, but it's fair.
Hold on. I want to make sure that.
But wait, can I get to my last point? Yeah, I wanted to do my last point. As for, I don't know your name. You have I think it's Boba Fett helmet. What's your name?
Admiral Gibbs.
Admiral Gibbs. So I do agree that our system has to be slow to a point that we all know about the decisions that we're making. It can't be to the point where we're rushing something through or not reading the fine print and then all of the country just signed up to a human centipede. I understand that. That makes sense to me. But I also think that at a certain point, especially if it's not doing for purposes of review, but it's doing it for purposes of leverage or long drawn out negotiations, that it can get to a point that could be considered decision atrophy, especially if you're responding to a crisis that is worsening in real time. If, for example, there was a debate about responding to like Hurricane Katrina, and all of a sudden the Democrat came out and said, well, if we're going to do this, if we're going to have to do response on Hurricane Katrina, then you have to, bring back bump stocks. So you got to do this thing. And now maybe this legislation to bring back bump stocks, I'm more pro-gun. I don't know what your position is. Maybe it's good. Maybe you're in favor of it. But should we really be waiting 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 days on these two issues that should be voted on separately? And if you're somebody who cares about the community that was hit by Katrina, it's unbelievably frustrating to see an issue that you have no control over, that you can't do anything to solve, that you can't really compromise on because you have no authority over it, get tied into this issue that's completely separate. And that's what people here in the pro-Ukraine camp feel like right now. Decision atrophy is
completely disanalogous. That's completely disanalogous. FEMA exists.
Well, I agree. Well, I don't know about the first two points, but I at least agree with you on the last point. Honestly, like I think that I'm very sympathetic to your viewpoint, right? Like you're very. I'm not a Republican that's anti-war Ukraine. I'm definitely pro the war Ukraine, right? But I'm also real big issue is the border, right? So to me, everything you say is actually holding true in my mind because I see this issue tied up and I go and look and it's tied to these Ukraine bill and nobody's doing shit for me down here. We're dying in struggles. And then when I get told, I get turned around and told, hey, this bill's good for you. And if you don't like it, you're retarded. And by people that have no idea what's going on, it's hurtful. And it's like, why would I want to engage and work with somebody on the Ukraine bill whenever y'all are saying this about like me about the border bill kind of thing?
Well, I could say, I don't know. Look, I don't know if you're retarded or not. You might not be retarded. I hope you're not, right? Sure. But when it comes to this legislation, right, for the pro-Ukraine camp, for people kind of compromise on it, this compromise had to kind of fall out of the sky, which of course is how like all compromises eventually have to start. But we had to compromise on an issue and take two communities that are completely separate when it comes to geopolitics, interests, lobby groups, and bring it together in 5 months. And Senator Langford, on behalf of the Republicans of Oklahoma, attempted to do that and came to a deal that him, Mitch McConnell, and other Republicans that you might not like, but some Republicans said was good enough to push forward after 5 months. Apparently, it wasn't good enough for some people. Apparently, it needed to be better. Now, no one's going to get anything, and we have to live with the results. But after it was done, wait, let me just finish, and then we can move on. After it was done, we're like, okay, fine. Then can we just go back to what we were originally going to do, since we waited for 5 goddamn months as the Russians take Avdiivka, take this, and they're like, no, we need border compromise in order to do everything. Right. And that's it's decision atrophy. How can South Korea be confident in our assistance if they think out of nowhere they get invaded and that's now tied to the southern border or gay bills or whatever?
Sure, you're 100%
right. We're putting a pin in it right quick so I can make some money. $50 from Artemis Fowl. Democracy is the ability for the undereducated, the stupid, the racist, and the xenophobic to have a voice and a vote. If your argument can't convince America that MAGA is at fault for the border, then you should change your failing strategy. $5 from Testicle Johnson. As a proud American born and raised, I think we need to secure our southern border and stop the invasion coming from Mexico. USA, USA, USA. $2 more from Testicle Johnson. Free January 6 Patriots. $5 from Artemis
Is his name
Fowl.
Testicle Johnson?
Testicle Johnson.
He's the best.
Okay.
Can anyone
Testy, is that his nickname?
That has faith in the official narrative, tell me who blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. Okay.
I did. It was Ukrainians. Okay, I want to fucking go. I've been listening to fucking shit that's going to give me an aneurysm for 10 goddamn minutes, okay? So I want to talk about how Russians are exploiting an organic perspective in the conservative base, all right? Isolationism is organically rooted in the conservative base because of the war on terror, which was disproportionately fought by conservatives, okay? There is a real grievance here. And the grievance is that the United States effectively lied to its own population, spent $2 trillion, thousands of lives, and hundreds of thousands, if not millions of foreign lives in fruitless wars. That is a real thing to be scared about. That is a real thing to be angry about. 100%. Okay? Post-World War II, the world police position that the United States is currently in was never adequately explained or justified to the American population. As a result, a healthy chunk of our citizens are like, why the fuck are we doing anything in Yemen? I've never met a goddamn Yemeni person in my entire fucking life. Why are we blowing shit up over there? But the truth is that after World War II and with the rise of Soviet, yeah, of course. But guess what? Oil's expensive. Don't you like fucking Funko Pops, you fucking ANCAP fuck? Anyways, so this is an okay fucking grievance. It's perfectly fine. And I actually deeply sympathize with the conservative concern of why are we spending billions, if not trillions of dollars to secure foreign countries when we can't even secure our own? What the fuck is going on? I totally understand that vibe. And not only that, I fucking agree. I joke about wanting a greater United States of America. That's my ideal. I think we should be a great continent. However, my real solution that's pragmatic is secure the fucking border. We're either a country or we're not. And a country is able to secure its fucking border. But anyways, Russian information warfare, this is how we tie it back, they're capitalizing on the isolationism and they're asking Americans to step off of the world stage. And power abhors a fucking vacuum. So when you have 20%, like I said, of the population who I think irrationally, if you don't want to call them retarded, irrationally gets 80% of what they want, but then throws a fit because they don't get the 20%, and you have propagandists who are posing up the fucking Russians, and they're cheering that on. They're like, fuck yeah, fuck Ukraine, fuck Israel. They don't get money until we secure our border. And on top of that, this bill fucking sucks. It only got 80% of what you want. The remaining 20% sucks ass. It's a poison pill. It's a piece of shit. It's a fucking secret 4D chess move by the fucking Democrats. Yeah, I'm going to call you a fucking idiot because I think you're a fucking idiot and you don't know how politics within a negotiated democracy fucking works.
Did the bill get 51% of the votes? Or 80% of the votes?
Propagandists won.
Oh, so you're saying the propaganda is the remaining 40%?
Yeah.
In favor of the 20%?
55%. Roughly. The 55% of Americans who identify as MAGA and their representatives propagandized the remaining 45%, and they said it's not worth it. Kill the bill. And they successfully killed the bill. And I think that's a stupid fucking move.
Your belief, hold on, your belief is that our senators and congressmen in general are susceptible to political propaganda to where a majority of the party can be swayed very quickly and easily by the needs and desires
Just
of 20%.
Just a fact check here. I don't believe. Hold on. I don't believe. And someone can correct me if I'm wrong, if there was new developments I wasn't aware of. But Mike Johnson did not allow the vote because he knew if he did allow the vote, it would pass because a majority of Republicans and Democrats both supported the bill. But because the minority didn't want it to go up for a vote, he didn't allow it to go up for a vote. Was that correct, or am I mistaken here?
No, you're not mistaken. I mean, parliamentary procedures in the Senate have a lot of weird rules and things. And it'll get tabled.
So the reason I say that, though, if I may,
technically it'll come back.
Please,
they didn't convince anybody.
Both of you. The reason I say that is because Russian influence doesn't need to convince everyone. It just needs to convince a couple, right? The people who hold the reins of being able to. Now, again, whether or not it was direct money influence, I don't think so. I think Rashad had it right when they convinced the voting base of these individuals, and that voting base puts pressure on their politicians. And that's the problem, is that we have an outside foreign country being able to do this successfully in a time of crisis. But that's my understanding. Go ahead.
I was interrupted based off of the procedure here. So Connor, my issue with this is that your presumption is that our system of republicanism is good, and that it's good that it moves slow, and it's good that a portion can hijack it, but not in this instance because I don't like the outcome of how it was done, and or because it seems more like that seems what I'm getting, but it seems your actual argument, right? Not to straw man you, is that there is an 80% positive net outcome, and there's a 20% potential negative outcome, and the 80% is better because as republicanism, as liberal democracies are, we're supposed to compromise, and that the political persuasions of tribal politics have made it to such a way that they're gridlocked here. I don't necessarily disagree with you. My issue there is twofold. One is, we can talk about Russia, but again, there are counterbalancing forces here as well, right? Like, there's obviously a massive media campaign from corporations and government sponsored media and the military industrial complex to support the war.
There's a part here that kind of needs to be addressed. So not all there's actually 2 points. The first one is, I in general believe in republicanism and representative democracy, because even when it fails, I still think that's better than authoritarianism. But part of representative democracy is arguing your ideas passionately in a public space. So when I'm being aggressive with you or Admiral Gibbs and I'm calling you guys retards, what I'm really trying to do, and I love you, Admiral Gibbs, I'm sorry if I made you feel personally insulted. That's not the goal.
I'm not insulted.
Okay. But the goal here is not to win you individually, maybe individually if I can get you.
Yeah, it's the audience. I get
but
that.
It's to get people to see what I'm seeing and hopefully agree with me, and then they'll pressure their representatives in a different way, my way, right?
Right. I understand that you're passionate about the issue. And you think it was
influence is not built equal. Okay, influence is not built equal. You keep mentioning Israel or the UK or Europe or whatever.
Yes.
These are people that we have geopolitical and money and economic and social and cultural aligned interest with that sometimes stretches back centuries, versus Russia, who has historically been an adversary and is also proving to be an adversary at this time. Those influences are not the same.
Quick question. I agree. Those influences are not the same. Did we or did we not have a large swath of the American public agree to go into the Iraq war due to lies from the Israeli intelligence? About weapons of mass destruction, about Netanyahu coming up about a fucking the nuclear bomb will be here tomorrow. We have to do this so that we can stop the Iranians. Were there not multiple bullshit, exaggerations, hyperbole, and then outright lies by Israel that got us into the Iraq war?
I bit your bullet. But I don't think that you can I'll bite your bullet because I don't give a fuck. But at the same time, I don't think you can lay that shit at solely the Israelis. The Israelis corroborate.
I'm not saying it's solely the Israelis.
Hold on.
I thought it was bad intelligence from Iraqi opposition.
There was bad intelligence from Iraqi opposition.
Just the fact check here. There was a lot of intelligence.
There was German intelligence. Yeah, there were 4 or 5. Yeah. So, and by the way, there were competing factions within the intelligence communities themselves, where some of the Americans and some of the Germans and some of the UK people were like, "Hey, you're giving George Bush what he wants, but realistically, I think this information is bullshit." And those places were suppressed. So my point overall being like, yeah, influence from our allies can.
Or you could just bite the bullet.
What's your broader point?
My broader point is this, is that all of the evidence that the panel keeps trying to present of Russian influence is incredibly limited. And instead, what you're trying to do is you're trying to follow the connections. You're working backwards. The entire argumentation has been, I have an assumption that Russian influence is having a negative impact on the GOP, so I'm going to search for evidence of these things, and then we completely ignore all of the other
propaganda
factors.
is having that effect. It's not a question of if.
Yes,
because
yes,
wait. Let me
let Dylan make his argument.
On the number one cable news show in the United States, Tucker Carlson's TV show, and he still had it for Fox before he got removed, he said that for every Russian soldier that dies, 7 Ukrainian soldiers die. He then had RFK the next week on to repeat the same thing on the show. There was no correction ever issued, nothing ever corrected. This was complete fantasy. These were photographed documents from the Jack Tex Terror League. What was that?
You're making my point for me.
Wait, I can't. No, wait, baby, can you quiet down so I can hear somebody else talk for a second? What were you saying?
What party is RFK in, though?
What party is RFK? He is an independent, right? He's running as an independent.
But he was.
No, he was a Democrat. He was a Democrat, but he's running as an independent.
That's what I mean.
There's a change.
Wait, let me be clear though. Do you think Fox
News
News Tucker Carlson show is watched by Democrats, or do you think it's watched by mostly Republicans? Which side do you think it's mostly watched by? Like, if you were Marjorie Taylor Greene, are you more likely watching MSNBC, or are you more likely watching Fox if you're watching either of these shows?
The two aren't equal because Fox crushes.
I think it's most likely going to be the Fox. It's going to be with Fox.
News.
It's going to be with Fox News. It's going to be with Tucker's show. And these politicians repeat these talking points. Senators have, Congress people have, and it does have an impact if all it takes. Now, if this was maybe a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, it would have had less impact. But when all it takes is one congressman to do a recall vote, these psychos all of a sudden with a 2-seat majority have outsized influence when they're influenced in these ways.
This is a Mott and Bailey. And I'll explain to you why it's a Mott and Bailey. Because what we are talking about is we are equivocating what everyone's colloquial understanding of is. No, we're equivocating 2 arguments, right? And what we are doing is there is one argument which is everyone here agrees to, which is that a powerful country such as Russia that has an intelligence apparatus has some level of influence. Don't deafen yourself. Has some level of influence. Has some level of influence on both political parties and in the American public, and that this is true of any country that is powerful enough to have a overarching intelligence agency. Now, you may argue that Russia has slightly more, or that Russia's a little bit better at it, or that and that's fine. That argument is valid. The problem here is that, yes, I accept that there's some influence, but the argument that we're trying to make, that everyone is invoking when they hear this topic, is the concept that is the Republican Party to a statistically significant degree being hijacked by Russian misinformation or by Russian culture? If the question is a large country influencing? If the question is does it exist at all that a large country such as Russia has some level of influence, then there's no point for this fucking panel, because the obvious answer is yes. That's true of China, that's true of Israel, that's true of UK, that's true of France, that's true of Australia.
You can respond, Dylan, but Rashad, I want Rashad to answer
it's
that.
It's a Mott and Bailey.
I don't want to get too much into the intelligence operations.
Which is that you're going backwards.
Talking about the Russian intelligence attempted infiltrating of the National Rifle Association, the Russian intelligence infiltrating of FPI confidential sources, which we're now finding out a little bit more about as more is coming to light about what Jim Jordan and other congressional Republicans were relying on as they were going through with the Hunter Biden case. It's hard to know exactly how deep either intelligence infiltration or something like that is, because I don't have access to the intelligence. You don't have access to the intelligence. So all I can monitor as of right now is the Internet Research Agency, which the Russians funded to spread misinformation in the United States. I can point towards attempted maybe infiltration of the Russian Orthodox Church with spies within the United States, but it's going to be hard for me to outside of assuming intention when it comes to certain Russian oligarchical donors with certain Republicans, to be like, there was some meeting where this Russian oligarch sat down with Mike Johnson and said, "You will
I understand
stop
that
the bill.
it's hard to prove.
So wait,
position.
well, let me be finished. So when it talks about infiltration, what I can talk about is how Russian propaganda has infiltrated the Republican Party, how the Russian information warfare has infiltrated the Republican Party. Because when it talks about Russian intelligence infiltration of the Republican Party, that's still to be determined, and we don't have sufficient evidence of that.
Yeah, the question in tonight's debate is Russian influence. To be clear, that is vague, but I want Rashad because Rashad was
Is Russia influencing the Republican Party? Is that the question?
I did try to put a link in the chat, and it doesn't seem to be allowing me.
DM me the link, and I'll put it in the chat for you. What's the link?
Sure. It was something about how the Russian influence is not nearly as although Russian influence exists, there is absolutely no data to show that the election was lost due to that. And in fact, the Russian influence seemed to really only affect far right people who were already far right. So it didn't seem to actually
comment on this whenever I get
Well, let me be clear. I'm not talking about the election. I'm talking about the
far right
blockade
elected officials are.
We're gonna go to Rashad.
They're not talking about the last 8 years of Russia. It's this year's
we gotta
Russia.
let other people in. Fabian, we gotta let other people in. We're going to Rashad, then we're going to Gibbs, and then I got more super chats.
Yeah, I mean, when Russian influence is actively derailing our foreign policy, it's ridiculous to try to equivocate it to the influence of other nations such as the UK or Israel or our allies. When we have congressmen like Matt Gaetz saying he would prefer Russia, an American adversary, over Ukraine to be a part of NATO. We have Ted Cruz going on Twitter and reposting Russian propaganda. When we have Marjorie Taylor Greene saying the things that she said about Ukraine and babies and all this nonsense. We have Tucker Carlson going to Russia and romanticizing Russian culture and lying to the American people and saying the reason why you don't have a good grocery spending life is because our politicians are manipulating us. And in reality, Russia actually has a grocery paradise. When we have this going on, this conjunction of operation between both conservative media and conservative politicians, it becomes really obvious that there is an influence, and it's slowly but surely building. I mean, you mentioned conspiracy theory when it's literally happening in front of us. This isn't 9/11 truth.
So Fabian, your argument is that they're not bought and paid for; they're just retarded. That's your argument.
They're just doing it for free.
Well, first and foremost,
when Tucker Carlson goes to a grocery store,
hold on, pause. We're gonna go through point by point, real quick. Ted Cruz, probably more likely just retarded. Okay. When it comes to Marjorie Taylor Greene, probably far more likely that she's retarded. When it comes to Tucker Carlson, without a doubt, he is tailoring his message and propagandizing both for Russia and for his audience because he knows that the populist audience wants to see him shit on America and shit on the Biden administration and talk about a great.
And that has an effect on the voting base, does it not? Right.
Right.
All right. So 2.5.
But again, your argument is again, you're not addressing the issue here, which is that you're going back. You're saying it's crazy to equivocate between Israel lying to us directly as our presumed ally, a position of trust that helped get us into.
That's the main reason why we crashed out
into the Iraq war. It is certainly.
Have you proven that that's
your
the main
argument?
Reason?
It is synonymous with your argument. Is the concept that a few politicians and a small portion of the American public are spouting misinformation? I don't know how old you are. I don't know how old you are. But if you were alive during the time the lead up right before the Iraq war, fucking everybody was talking about weapons of mass destruction. It was a talking point of every fucking politician.
Was George Bush an asset of the Israeli government?
There's a huge point right here.
You think Marjorie Taylor Greene is an asset of
not
the
just Fabian,
not
just Fabian, but we keep using the word equivocate, which means use ambiguous language so as to conceal the truth. Whereas I think what we're looking for is equivalent, which is making something equal in value.
Please, let's not do the definition.
Admiral Gibbs.
I'm doing that on purpose because how do we know what we're talking about?
I want to hear Admiral Gibbs right now. Admiral Gibbs.
I got a few things I want to say. Well, first
of
all,
after you, we're gonna go to the super chats, and you're not gonna interrupt my money, gang. Okay, just FYI. But go ahead, Gibbs.
So first thing I want to say, this Tucker Carlson thing that I've heard several times tonight, I gotta say is the biggest pussy bullshit talking point I've ever heard, and I'm gonna tell you why. If anyone in here wants to be a person on Twitch or anyone wants to be
Thank
a
you.
journalist or whatever, and if they have a chance to interview Putin, they're gonna interview Putin. Like if
How
North
did he
Korea,
Why?
do it though?
No,
if Kim Jong,
that's not the problem.
hold on. If Kim Jong was gonna call me up and go, Gibbs, you want to interview me? I would do it in a heartbeat. And if I don't know if you know this, but dictators having people go to their grocery stores and then talking about how good they are, just in order to get the interview, is literally a meme that they did in the movie called The Interview. They take him to a grocery store. Like this is the thing dictators do. So for y'all to like,
I
not
don't
Well, it's
want
good
to
that Tucker
take.
has the
Wait,
formula
no.
down
I'm not
pat.
going
It's
to
great that
learn.
formula.
I'm not.
It's
Wait,
great that
no.
Tucker has the
I'm
formula
not
down pat.
learning
Let me
journalistic
finish.
ethics
Tucker.
from
Let me
Great
Seth
for
Rogen.
Tucker.
Okay, I'm not learning journalistic ethics from Seth Rogen.
Let me just finish here, all right? So that it's literally a meme.
He's not
Y'all know
wrong.
it. Like y'all are being disingenuous when you say y'all wouldn't do the interview if you would. Like I know
Yo,
right now, if Wick was going to
That's
get
not the
paid,
problem.
started making money, he would do it. Like we
Gibbs.
all do it.
Wait.
Next, second, the idea that like the average person, the average Republican is sitting here thinking about Russian collusion, and when you're talking about this 20% that didn't want this bill and other things that go on, like is ludicrous. The average person's not sitting here thinking about Russia, Ukraine. They're thinking, why is the grocery prices going up? Why are my tax dollars going up? And then when they turn and see, oh, we're having a literal invasion, they think this is a foreign policy issue that's right on our border. What are we doing about that? As opposed to that's a foreign policy issue half a world
Well,
away. And like, so when
Dude.
you're going to sit here and say
part
it's
of the
Russian
reason
collusion, you're
Part
just
of the
like,
reason
you're
why
just
part of the reason why there was an increase in cost in groceries and in fuel is because of the war in Ukraine,
you're
though.
just
Part of the reason
dismissing
why we have inflation is
all of
because
what
of the
the
war in
Americans
Ukraine.
are doing. You're
And
just
the Russian
dismissing all the
economic hit
regular
is
Americans.
worse.
And it's just ridiculous. And it's really disingenuous. And it's like and like
Is
literally
it though?
said
I
earlier,
mean, Tucker
y'all are
Carlson
working
sat there
back.
and gave him a
Y'all are
softball
working,
interview.
really like you're saying,
So
he's like
I,
y'all are
It
working back.
wasn't.
These people
Tucker
are
gave him the weakest
okay,
interview.
it's
Tucker
I
gave
love
that
the
man the
I didn't
Ukraine
weakest
hear
interview
anything.
of all time.
inflation
Enough.
You're not
argument.
really
hold on, these
serious
people
about
are
what Tucker
upset
did?
about these
Enough.
things that are happening. These
Enough.
people are
Enough. Gibbs.
Inflation's
Gibbs.
the Russians'
A
fault.
moment.
I'm
Don't
almost
forget.
done. I'm on my last thing.
Finish your point, Gibbs, and
I'm
then you
sorry.
guys can respond, and we
Yeah.
will go Rashad, then Dylan, then I'm going to read my super chats. God damn
Yeah.
it.
So yeah, I'm sorry. I just kept getting everything. And so lastly, like Fabian said earlier, y'all are working backwards, right? Y'all are going, oh, these people didn't like the border bill because we gave money to Ukraine. It must be Russian collusion. Or, oh, this XYZ happened, must be Russian collusion. And y'all can't fathom the fact that there's a large enough segment of the population going, holy fuck, this is not what we want. And then whenever they say that, y'all call them retards or y'all like try to like vilify them instead of like giving them a seat at the table. And then people are pissed. And people are pissed. And that's what is happening. And it's not Russian influence.
Okay, I have a direct
respond,
fucking.
Hold up,
Rashad.
hold up,
Can you
hold
read
up.
this?
Rashad responds, then Dylan responds, then I'm reading my goddamn super chats. Go ahead.
Well, the most insidious part about it is Tucker made more of an attempt to demonize NATO than Putin did. He kept trying to recenter the conversation to how bad NATO was, and Putin kept trying to center it to 800 AD or some shit. The idea that somehow or another what that man did, Tucker, what he did, was not insidious, was not manipulative, was not pushing the Republican base toward a much more Russia-friendly, Russian-favorable, and anti-American, anti-NATO narrative, it's not true. And this is going to have negative effects on our foreign policy, especially when you have people like Candace Owens not only being anti-Ukraine, but also being anti-Israel. So now you have a double effect here. Then we also talk about...
Oh God, you've never
talk
met
about-
a right winger.
Okay, we're gonna let Big Dog. We're gonna let him go. Anyways, the idea that somehow or another this is like a weak thing. It's not gonna have any significant effect. I mean, Tucker Carlson is probably the biggest independent journalist in the country. This man is on a roll right now. He's on a tear. And his narratives and his propaganda is going to have a significant effect at the voting booth as he continues to go further and further and further.
Okay,
What
Dylan, go ahead.
specifically did the like what specifically in the Russian interview did Tucker say that you thought helped support Putin? Because at the same time,
It was not, it was less like
Putin-
what he didn't say. It was not
Putin
less
was
what he said
avoiding
as
the
what he didn't
question.
say and how he wasn't
Nope.
prepared for the interview
I mean,
in any way.
even in the
Like,
beginning.
Come on, God damn it!
You got it. Take
Okay,
it.
thank you.
Was avoiding his
Jesus, I've been
question. He
waiting.
was purposely evasive. Whenever
Pause.
Trump tried to give him anything even sort of kind of hard, he would just completely evade the question. And that in itself proved Putin was just trying to essentially recreate the Soviet Union and has these ideas of grandeur. If anything, that interview exposed Russia for what they're trying to do and made more conservatives skeptical of Russia, maybe even more supportive of Ukraine.
Because again, when I was hosting the debate between Destiny and Ian Crossland was asked directly what he thought of the Tucker interview, and he said that it convinced him that NATO wasn't the issue. Was that Tucker's goal or not? That's a different question.
It wasn't his goal.
Dylan.
How the fuck would you know? Like, if that's
because he started at the beginning of the interview trying to
hijack the GOP. You're a conspiracy theorist.
Personal friend of mine.
You're a
I know
fucking
better
conspiracy
than all
theorist.
of you what he's actually trying to do, y'all. Okay.
Whatever you were up to before you came back, go back to that. Anyways, Tucker,
not being a conspiracy theorist.
Rashad, you gotta let Dylan. You gotta let Dylan go. You gotta let Dylan.
My bad, Dylan.
Dylan can take it.
Okay, so I report on the war. That's my job, and so I was very interested to see when Tucker said he was going to interview him, but I was immediately worried because I've seen Tucker interviews before, and they're quite shit. At least when it comes from like a critical perspective. The type of interview you have for like your friend, fine. Perfectly fine if you're interviewing your next door neighbor and you want to get to know him. But if you're hosting like a critical interview, for example, if that guy who said he had gay sex with Barack Obama while smoking crack, he didn't really ask many critical questions, just kind of took everything he said at face value. It was like, oh, I guess Obama smoked crack and had gay sex when he was in his youth as a young congressman. And that was that. And I expected something similar to that in the Putin interview. But what was worse to me about the Putin interview is Putin isn't a gay crack addict. Putin is a bloodthirsty dictator with decades of experience in intelligence apparatuses that he's now being put in front of. And Tucker's somebody with no experience in the region. He's never interviewed a Russian political leader before, never interviewed a Ukrainian political leader before, never done war journalism, has no experience in the region, and tons of other journalists have asked to interview Putin since the start of the war. Steve Rosenberg, fantastic journalist with the BBC, he asked to interview Putin. He gets rejected time and time again. Dozens and dozens of journalists. And right when Tucker said at the start, I was the only one brave enough to interview Tucker, I knew I was about to be taken on a bullshit rodeo, because I know other journalists who have tried to interview the guy, and then he goes in there and he has no knowledge for 44 minutes as Putin goes off, just writing his own version of Russian history as he sat there completely out of its depth, getting confused about what the Orange Revolution was when Putin started talking about it, because Tucker doesn't know anything about the Orange Revolution. And so my problem was not just that Tucker didn't push back on a lot of Putin's narratives, it's even if he wanted to, he didn't have the experience to push back against Tucker's narratives. The reason he was chosen out of all the rest of the dozens and dozens of journalists who have tried to interview Putin is because Putin knew even if he wanted to, he couldn't fight back. And even if Putin embarrassed himself, that is in spite. That's not because of, I think Tucker was doing a great interview. That's because I think that's just who Putin is. I think Putin is actually a lot less personable than people think, despite Tucker's best efforts.
Okay, before we go to counterpoints, and we will go to counterpoints, let me read these super chats, please. I gotta make money, gang. $10 from Common Cure to say, Scott, if you want to say legislative gridlock is a feature of our system, fine. But when the reasoning for holding up legislation is based in wild conspiracy theories, that's a very unique problem. $20.
The Democrats there? The conspiracy theorist Democrats here?
No, clearly not.
I was just curious if you meant Republicans or Democrats.
Yeah, almost certainly. Artemis Fowl for $20. I don't understand why we put so much weight on our intelligence and military agencies when they're the ones who told us that Afghanistan was not going to fall for 7 months, and it fell within 10 days before the Kabul attack. $10 from Artemis Fowl. Would Russia have any influence at all if U.S. intelligence and institutions and media weren't consistently lying and spreading their own misinformation for years? $5 from Bendoa. Putin also put an op-ed in the New York Times in 2013. Is the New York Times compromised too? And $5 more from Artemis Fowl. I watched Zoomers and millennials agree with Osama bin Laden's open letter on TikTok, and people are concerned about Russian influence instead of China. Okay, with that, we'll go to counter. He's been waiting for a while, and then we'll just go to the open again. Go ahead.
Yeah, addressing Artemis Fowl, I agree that China is a way bigger player than Russia. If anything, Russia's proved itself to be a paper tiger. They haven't been able to take Ukraine, and it's basically Ukraine should not be a military fucking rival at all. Well, and then it sucks that Admiral Gibbs walked away because that was the next thing that I was going to address. So I'll just actually address Artemis Fowl one more time. So why would we trust American intelligence agencies when Afghanistan fell in 7 months? What we call that is a perverse incentive. Almost everybody who was involved in the DoD in Afghanistan basically knew that the place was ready to fucking explode by the time that we pulled out. And the politicians want to hear what they want to hear. 6 months is not a rosy picture, right? So, 6 months is a very short time considering we dropped billions of dollars into that. So that was probably the intel guys telling the politicians what they wanted to hear, which was not a rosy picture. So just like saying that they're wrong and retarded is incorrect. All right. So Admiral Gibbs, specifically, I was frustrated 20 minutes ago, and this is why, not you, because I love you and I love your Mandalorian helmet, but the reason why I call some conservatives retarded and why I think some of their perspectives are retarded is because specifically the grocery store argument, okay? Tucker Carlson walks into a grocery store and he goes, oh my God, they got beef, they got bacon, they got Brussels sprouts, they got potatoes, they got vodka. The Russians are doing fucking great. And it's no wonder why Americans are so fucking mad that their food prices have gone up by 300% in the past 2 years when Russia is a dictatorship and they have perfectly fine, widely available, cheap groceries. Do you know why that's fucking retarded? It's because Russians have also experienced fucking inflation like a motherfucker, and they also spend more of their annual budget on fucking food. So this motherfucker said some of the dumbest shit possible, being charitable to one of America's rivals for no goddamn reason. So I appreciate that you. If you all heard this fucking argument, then why would you cite that as a good thing? And then secondly,
no one did.
That meme? Okay. Secondly, you said that it was a fucking meme from a movie. Did his audience get that? Did they get the joke? Because I didn't get the fucking joke.
I mean, obviously, I watched it and I saw both, and I'm his audience, and I got it.
So when Tucker Carlson was praising Russian grocery store prices, was he memeing? Was he joking?
I mean, the meme. This is the meme: is that they're going to go in there, they're going to say that, they're going to get this false impression, and they're going to go say that on TV. That's like literally what the meme is.
So was he doing meta irony?
I'm doing it behind
is he a J-Reg/Greg watcher where he understands post-ironic humor and he's expecting his audience of fucking boomers to understand post-irony?
No, what I think most people, and this is the way I took it, I mean, as an audience member, was that, Putin probably made him do this bullshit so he could get the interview. That's like basically the way
that is
Admiral.
That is really bad.
Yeah, I wildly respect your intelligence thinking that far ahead compared to the average conservative who probably went, oh yeah, based. Russia has cheap groceries. That's fucking sick. I don't know why I have to tolerate all these blacks and Hispanics and gays in my fucking movies. Why don't we just purge all the fucking degenerates and get cheap grocery prices? Authoritarianism is fucking awesome. That's literally what I expected most people to get from that.
Speaking of average conservatives, I want to hear Lauren's take on this. Please.
Damn, he just called you retarded. What the fuck?
No, I said average conservative, right?
Yeah.
Okay, whatever. So, when it comes to the groceries thing, Tucker's whole point was that that Biden's foreign policy of the embargo, which was meant to harm Russia, did not work. So the fact that you just completely
how can you say that?
It didn't work.
I mean,
let her get her argument out. She's
okay. I'll let her finish. I disagree with the premise.
How can I say what? You think the embargo helped Americans? Do you think the embargo was?
I think it helped our foreign policy significantly. Yes, and I mean, I assume when you say embargo, you mean sanctions. Not wait. 1 second. I assume when you mean embargo, you mean sanctions.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing is the purpose of the sanction wasn't destroy Russia. The American government doesn't want to destroy Russia. That's the last thing the American government wants to do. The reason why the American government's terrified of escalation and terrified of Putin regime's collapsing is why during the Wagner coup, they told the Ukrainians to chill, don't do any big operations during this, is because if the Russian government collapses, the entirety of the former Soviet nuclear arsenals within Russia. The entirety of it. And if it collapses into some weird warlord state, where are all those nukes going to go? What's going to happen to all these nukes? This is why we negotiated with the Ukrainians and told them to give up the nukes and give them to the Russians, because we wanted to concentrate them all in one area so it would be safer. Obviously, I think in retrospect, the Ukrainians
that was the beginning of
regret that, but no, 1 second. My point is my first point is the point of the sanctions was never to destroy Russia. The point of the sanctions was to hurt the Russian economy and undermine the Russian war machine. Both things which have been achieved and will continue to be achieved. The Russian ruble has been inflated. I'm sorry. I don't know if you know anything about the Russian economy or not. Can you tell me about the fantastic Russian economic indicators that I have missed?
Go ahead, Lauren.
Well, you can look at,
or you can finish the rest of your point.
Just the whole point of the Tucker
grocery
video.
store prices. I know a lot about Russian grocery store prices. Let's talk about it.
You know a lot about Russia.
Yes,
okay.
Russian egg prices have gone up 61% by the start of 2023 to the end of 2024. That's a significant increase in Russian egg prices, and it's not just eggs, and it's a ton of other like family household goods that Russians need to consume.
Hey, why'd you choose eggs? Hold on, real quick. Why'd you choose eggs?
Hold on, give it to Lauren.
No, I'm just saying. You're bringing up these grocery store prices.
Dylan, stop. You gotta let Lauren respond.
Okay.
Lauren,
why'd you choose eggs?
Give her some space. Go ahead.
I chose
Lauren.
eggs because it's a staple.
Or you didn't choose eggs because there was a massive flu in Europe? You didn't choose eggs because it was the number one inflated food price in all of Europe and Russia?
Y'all ain't doing shit. Y'all ain't doing shit. Y'all still ain't doing shit.
You want to pretend
Russians are still paying.
Wait, no, I'm sorry.
Stop. Lauren hasn't even gotten her goddamn point out.
Okay, let her finish.
We'll
talk about Russian groceries.
10 words.
We had 40% egg inflation in America, too.
Fabian, you stop. Right. Dylan, you stop. Let Lauren get her whole point out, and then we can address it. I promise you. Go ahead, Lauren.
Okay, and then also we completely weakened the value of the US dollar by so many things that we did to Russia in forms of sanctions. By saying that like certain oligarchs can just be wiped from banks and have all of their stuff stripped and completely loses the meaning and the backing behind the US dollar. And so there are countries, including Russia, who are thinking about switching to the yen. So, like, how does that help Americans, what Biden did? Biden completely...
By weakening the war effort of our enemy.
Yeah, I assume you meant the yuan, not the yen, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
Like, we do acknowledge that Russians are spending half
their Chinese.
Yen is Japanese.
But we can make fun of his egg point. But
wait. Come on, this is like but the Russian economy.
Okay.
Egg point is so dumb, considering we had like the bird flu, we had a bunch, like the eggs went up.
Okay, if you don't think, number one, we did not have a 61% egg price increase over the last year. We didn't have that.
We had a much larger.
We didn't have a much larger. Prove it.
What do you mean?
Prove it, because we didn't have a 61% increase.
Okay, let me look up.
Fabian just said it was 40. Last time I checked, 40 is lower than 60.
That's still real bad.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying it's bad, but okay. If you don't like the egg price increases, then how about we talk about the freezing of social spending? Or what about the 50% reduction in Russian government revenues? What about the destruction of the foreign reserves? What about their melting down of the gold reserves? What about the massive electricity outages across Russia as their services are breaking down? There's multiple issues that we can talk about. They could be talking about the fleeing of foreign capital. What about the massive hit to the Russian automotive industry? Massive hit to the Russian... Wait, let me finish. All of you guys... I'm sorry. What about the massive hits to the Russian airplane industry as 40% of their airplane fleet is grounded because they can't import the foreign parts? What about the massive impact on the long-range missiles that were heavily dependent on French, German? I am addressing the argument.
No, you're speaking now.
Shut the fuck up. You're actually just annoying right now. I'm trying to finish my point. Jesus Christ.
Gish galloping bullshit. Like, I don't understand why
he told me that the sanctions did not hurt the Russian economy, hurt the American economy. It hurt the American economy more. So first, it achieved the... Let me...
That's directly what she said. So I'm waiting for Dylan to finish.
Can I finish, or does Fabian need to talk? Is this the Fabian show? Wick, I'm sorry. Did this get renamed the Fabian podcast? I was unfamiliar. Okay, so the automotive industry was hit. The airplane industry was hit. Tons of industry throughout Russia was hit. The fleeing of foreign capital, the loss of jobs, the loss of people, as many people fled not only the draft, but fled because all the foreign companies left, and a lot of young intellectuals, the young people who have maybe tech-minded backgrounds or working in tech industry, they left. the Russian economy is going to feel the effects of these sanctions for not only years, for decades. A lot of the effects of these sanctions are still not felt yet, as the GDP growth is inflated due to the military industry being heavily subsidized by the state as they're spending up all their savings to try to keep the war economy going. This is going to really hurt Russians down the line, not only today, it's hurting Russians today too. You ask Russians about their top issues, they talk about the rise in living, the rise in cost of living, the rise in grocery prices, the rise of inflation, as the ruble for the first time, I think, since like the 90s was worth like less than a penny. The whittling down of their savings, not to mention the undercutting, which was the main goal and should always be the main goal of the sanctions, the undercutting of the war economy, as they had to import foreign parts that they can't import anymore, like microchips, as they're trying to dodge sanctions. We're trying to squeeze those in order to get long-range missiles to hit Ukraine. That was the main goal of the sanctions, should always be the main goal of the sanctions. Now, as for how it hurt the American economy, right now, I don't think how it's hurting the American economy that significantly.
Are you taking revenge? Are you taking revenge against me personally for talking a lot on Hippy Dippy? Holy fuck.
Okay, I'm done.
We gotta.
Okay, so the one point that I wanted to add to this is the relative strength of the dollar compared to the euro and the yuan. The fucking relative strength to the euro stayed almost the same the entire time. You can say it's because Europeans were also affected by the fucking conflict in Europe. But you look at the yuan or whatever, it fucking jumped up and then it collapsed back fucking down. China did not capitalize on the situation at all. So the fear that the Chinese were going to replace us was wildly fucking misplaced. So all this fucking simping for China and Russia, which is the way that I fucking read this kind of talk, is misplaced and misinformed.
So going all the way back. Okay. So going all the way back to the point that Dylan gish-galloped past because he really wanted to let everybody know that he had a lot of empirical evidence.
What in
the Russian economy is doing
smart man
about?
I was asked about the Russian economy. I talked about the Russian economy. It's kind of the area I specialize in.
The claim.
We gotta let Fabian get his
claim.
Go ahead.
The claim here is Russian influence. Again, we discussed the Mott and Bailey that is occurring here over and over and over again. And so then we get into the Tucker. So then we get into the Tucker Carlson interview and the fact that this person who has some level of influence in the GOP gave a shitty softball interview. And we went on and on and on about how dare he not give a strong enough interview. And this is actually evidence of Russian influence, et cetera, because Putin picked a favorable person to interview that he knew that he could convince a little bit and that he could kind of talk his talk. And then it came down to the grocery store situation where we were talking about it. And Lauren makes a very poignant point, very simple point, which is that no, it wasn't the way that you are framing it. Instead, it was a sense of reporting and shock that we're being told that these sanctions are going to have these massive impact and how you guys are struggling with groceries. Russia's struggling too, but it's not collapsed like we thought.
That's a fucking lie.
That's not a fucking lie.
This is a fucking lie. Tucker Carlson ended the interview saying, you're wrecking people's lives in their country, and that's what their leaders have done to us. He said that, and seeing what costs in our country and how people live, it will radicalize you against our leaders. That's how I feel anyway, radicalized. After comparing prices in America for groceries to Russia. So he's ending the interview trying to turn his viewers against American leadership, and you're lying on this fucking panel saying, well, his point was about the sanctions.
And it's a retarded point.
You just sat there and said he was not trying to refer to the grocery in and of itself. He's talking about the sanctions in general, even though he ended the interview comparing grocery prices, trying to turn his audience against politicians. I am taking what Tucker said.
Fabian, acknowledge it's a retarded point because Dylan brought up 15 different economic
indicators on the hill.
Besides eggs.
Will you shut the fuck up? Listen to me.
You talk 90% of every program you're on, bitch.
Yes, because I'm smarter than you and my points are actually good.
No, you're not.
God,
you're very verbose.
Okay.
So regardless, the argument went Rashad, yes, I agree. As I said before, that there's an element of propaganda. It's infotainment. That's what he does. He's not a fucking BBC journalist. He works for himself. Shush.
Okay, you're gonna play games. Sorry, fat ass.
I'm not playing games. You interrupted to scream me that I was a liar, and
then
you pulled one section of the interview, but you don't pull out the section. You don't pull out the section of the interview.
This is housekeeping. This is how it's gonna go. I'm gonna let Fabian respond, and then after he's responded, we're gonna give it to Dylan to ask Lauren a question.
Let the sweat ooze.
It's very simple. Will you shut the fuck up? Okay, I get that you're mad that I'm winning. Sush.
You literally do this all the time, and you're not winning.
It's okay. It's okay. I understand that your audience.
5 seconds.
Listen. Yes. I understand that you work for Progressive Victory, right? And I understand that the rest of you are leftists, and like Lauren and Gibbs and I are against the other 3 progressives. I get it. Your audience likes your takes. Duh.
Progressive Victory.
The point of the argument here is that there is a propagandistic element to our own media. And propaganda fights propaganda. Tucker Carlson is a form of propaganda. And our media is also a form of propaganda. And day in and day out, our media subjects us to things like, for some reason, inflation's actually not that bad. Or there'll be an article saying, the rate of inflation is down, and yet cost of prices are still going up, which is like, congratulations, you took Econ 101. We see propaganda on both sides. And there is an element of propaganda from Tucker. But the original point here was that you're being told that these sanctions, these things, while you're suffering at home from these increased prices due to this war that we're funding, you're being told that that you need to make this sacrifice. And what I'm saying is it's not having the same effects that you think it's having. You don't, like, these people still have a grocery store. These people are still shopping.
So because they're not starving on the street.
Fucking lie on behalf of Russians, that misinformation, the stuff that they're basically completely changing the narrative on versus targeted sanctions and the 15 fucking industries that Dylan described that got turbo fucked by the war. Also the tens of thousands of fucking Russians who are dying on the front line. You can say, oh my God, like what I'm saying is not entirely fucking accurate.
It's not.
You're so chill.
You can't.
Oh, yeah.
Have you brought up any evidence? Have you brought up any evidence to counter what Dylan said? Yes.
Hold on, Fabian. I'll repeat it back to you. Russians aren't
No.
suffering the way that you think
argument.
that they're suffering.
Listen.
The Russians aren't suffering. No. You just talk for 10 fucking minutes. Shut the fuck up. It'll be good practice for you. So anyways, I know you
just wish you could make an
enough
argument
during church. I wish that in church your parents had hit you more so you'd shut the fuck up when other people were talking.
Okay.
So anyways, the fucking point is, you said that Russians aren't hurting the way that you think that they're hurting. Well, I'm not retarded, so I paid attention to the news stories when they came out that specifically we were doing targeted sanctions that were going after the fucking billionaire class, not after the fucking civilians. Literally, that was part of the American-led propaganda, was that we're not going to be fucking killing Russian civilians. We're not going to be fucking over Russian civilians. We're going after the oligarchs. We're going after the kleptocrats. We're going after the corrupt class. So Tucker coming out and saying, wow, we didn't turbo rape the civilian population the way the United States government said that they wouldn't, is fucking planting an idea and then acting shocked that it's not true. That's called propaganda. That's fucking retarded.
I literally called it propaganda. You fucking retard.
So why are you simping for it, you fucking dude?
I'm not simping for it. I just am the only one here that's actually fucking consistent with what I speak instead of just spouting fucking talking points.
Because you said something 6 fucking times without acknowledging what I said.
You guys have like you've reached the retard limit on calling each other retarded. You've reached that limit. Okay. And I want to give it to Dylan to ask his question. And once they go back and forth, I want to give.
Okay, 10 seconds. 10 seconds.
I want to respond to what Dylan said earlier.
You have not in your frame Fabian Liberty.
Okay.
Fabian Liberty, you have not acknowledged within your frame that there is a difference between allies and aligned interest versus rivals and domestic interest. You keep ignoring that point. No, you didn't.
No, I did. I said that misinformation from our allies is worse. Such as the Iraq War.
Did you think that the military-industrial complex lies?
Is this the lawlessness you allow in the panel space now? Do I need to come back?
Dylan, go ahead.
Okay. I'm getting. Lauren, my questions first, just to address a lot of things that have been said. The sanctions were never, again, and I said this at the start, the sanctions were never meant to make Russia collapse. The sanctions were meant to, one, in many ways, remove Russia's leverage over Europe. That was like the immediate, removing the Merkel age European energy dependence on Russia, which, by the way, used to be a bipartisan thing that we talked about. Trump talked about it. Other people talked about it. It was something we were supposed to support together. That was the first effect of the sanctions. The second point of the sanctions was to undermine, like Counter said, the Russian political class and, of course, the Russian war machine. Now, in these sanctions, with these being the goals, it has also had a downstream negative effect on everyday Russians, especially when it comes to the SWIFT sanctions very early on. That had a very immediate impact on Russians, and it still is having an impact on Russians. For example, I mean, in our space, if you're a Russian Twitch streamer, you can't get money on PayPal. That's not a thing you can do anymore because of the SWIFT sanctions, and that's like 2 years old. And since then, the sanctions would pile on to deal with loopholes, but with the ultimate goal of increasing the Europeans' leverage in negotiations, knowing that they could remove the sanctions in a talk in the future, and to undermine the Russian war economy. And in those goals, it has succeeded. I wish it would succeed more. I think in some areas it's failed when it comes to microchip sanctions, or specifically the dodging of microchips. As for my question for Lauren, do you acknowledge at the very least that the sanctions on Russia have been at least partially successful in these goals?
Wow. What a question. Especially because Biden, the one who fucked up Nord Stream, the one who basically gave Russia control over Europe prices, the one, yeah, like to say that
fucked up as in let it get created or blew it up.
The goal with the sanctions, according to you, is to remove leverage over Europe. They have done nothing but gain more leverage over Europe because of Biden. So, like, the whole Nord Stream situation,
that destroyed Russia's leverage.
How did that destroy Russia's leverage?
Was that Russia can't export energy exports into Europe anymore? They have some of the energy infrastructure. Well, some of it's been blown up, but they don't do that. And now it's been replaced with American LNG, which has given us more leverage over the Europeans. Which, by the way, Republicans are angry that Biden's even just putting a pause on LNG export, LNG terminal expansion, because we want to take advantage of this.
Biden canceled a pipeline that would have given us more leverage over the economy. And then when Russia created a pipeline, he blew that up, hurting the environment, which you Democrats
number one, how do you know he blew that up? Can I say that? How do you know he blew it up?
They allegedly blew it up.
Oh, come on.
To allegedly blew up.
What? We don't know. We allegedly blew up. We don't know.
I was too old to know what's going on.
Look, Biden's senile. He couldn't have blown it up. He's too stupid to blow it up.
Merkel
stumbled into blowing it up.
When Trump was for creating pipelines and creating more access to sharing oil, Merkel was the one against that. So you're saying that there was bipartisanship? There's actually a picture of Trump leaning back with Abe, now deceased.
Wait, bipartisan in the United States, not bipartisan in the... Bipartisan doesn't mean the entire world. Bipartisan means in America. There was bipartisanship in America that we didn't like how much the Europeans were dependent on Russian energy. It wasn't just Trump. It's just that Trump was willing to be a lot more loud and bang his chest over. That's the difference.
He was the only one fighting to actually get control over
and
that.
Did he achieve it? Did he do it? Did he figure it out? Or did he fail and then the Russians had the leverage at the start of the war?
Wouldn't allow it to happen. So...
I wouldn't vote for Merkel. I'm not German. I'm not voting for Merkel in the next election. I don't like Merkel very much. I would have voted for Schultz, actually.
Yeah, she let in wait.
The point of the matter is that Joe Biden has handled this perfectly in terms of building leverage over the Russians. I mean, even the way we handled the war with supplying the Ukrainians weapons, we have built leverage.
Wait, she never answered my question. Can you answer my question?
That it at least did some good. That the sanctions at least did some.
They achieved their goal. They achieved partially their goal of undermining the Russian war economy.
So will you admit that they didn't fully achieve their goal?
No, because I think that certain ships are still getting through.
Why do you keep putting partially in front of it?
Because there's things I want. Because I don't think the government's aggressive enough.
Turbo fucked.
I want to hear Admiral Gibbs really quick. Go ahead.
Do you want to hear Admiral Gibbs? Hold on. Wait. Lauren, I love you, but I get to say who I want to hear from when I want to hear from.
I wanted to concede my time to Admiral Gibbs because he's literally raising his hand.
If we're going to get to Admiral Gibbs, I promise, but we're going to go to Rashad first, and then we'll go to Admiral Gibbs. Okay? Cool.
I mean, the shifting of the point to, well, they didn't do complete damage to the Russian economy, so the media is lying. The point of the matter is to do damage to our adversary. Like, what do Republicans want more damage to Russia? Or not? Because I don't think that's the narrative. I don't think Republicans actually wanted to take an adversarial stance to Russia as it stands right now. You think Tucker Carlson wants to get more aggressive? I don't think so. He spent the beginning of the interview trying to get Putin to be more anti-NATO than Putin even was in the interview. The idea that somehow or another Tucker Carlson was just trying to bring attention to the fact that the media is lying. Does Tucker Carlson want more aggression, economic aggression against Russia, or less? What's the ultimate goal here with that video? Because I already just proved that Tucker came to the end of the video, compared the prices of American groceries to Russian groceries, and said, you know, the prices are so much higher in the States, you know, this is radicalizing me against our leaders, that they're subjecting us to this lifestyle. He ended the entire video trying to manipulate the facts and turn the American people against our leaders with a bullshit video about groceries. So for you to sit here and make it seem, what do you want to say?
I was just gonna say it was post-ironic shit posting. That's what I learned tonight. So that it's like the dumb, like average intelligence smart meme where it's like the bell curve or whatever. It's like the dumb meme is like it was just a shit post. The average meme was like no, he was serious, and then the genius people are like no, it's just a shit post. That's what I took away from tonight.
Okay, finish your point, Rashad. Then we're gonna get Gibbs.
No, I mean that was Tucker's entire point when Fox News caught that lawsuit was how can anybody take me seriously? But you know, it's just both you and Fabian are playing this game of shifting the minor goalposts.
Of the legal facts, by the way, that is such a manipulation of the legal facts. He's saying when he's being sarcastic, when he's being obviously like he sometimes says things in a very sarcastic tone. That's typical Tucker. And
regarding an election being stolen, right?
There are things that and so that lawsuit, it's like, how could anyone believe that this sarcastic tone is literal? And then you twist that to be, how could anyone believe anything he says is literal?
Was the grocery interview, by the way, what I'm radicalized against the American government, was that sarcastic?
That was sarcasm.
I think that I don't think that was sarcasm, but then again, how is that a lie? That's how he feels. That's an opinion.
I can't. I mean, but how could we tell? How could we ever tell?
Okay, Gibbs, go ahead.
Okay, are you not able to tell the difference between a fact and an opinion? Thank God you guys aren't lawyers, because like I don't think you have a firm concept.
I mean, it seems to me like Tucker's trying to push an opinion as fact.
Pardon?
So I just wanted to quickly say that I'm looking at graph comparisons of what like the average Americans spend on food and like cumulative food prices, and also one on share of expenditure spent on food versus total consumer expenditure. And on all of these graphs that I'm checking over the last 2 years, the United States, when it comes to stability on this, has been miles and miles and miles ahead of the Russians in comparison. In fact, if you check cumulative food price data and inflation around cumulative food prices, it's just been like almost like a straight up like line. It looks more the slope on that is more inclined than the ramp Trump almost fell over. It's pretty deep. So I can send you that data if you want it, but I just wanted to offer it.
Please do, because everything that I'm reading when I type in Russian economists and sanctions, like CNN says Russian boasts it's beating sanctions, but it's longer.
Well, yeah, Russia boasts it's beating sanctions. What a surprise!
Corruption. If you take people's standard of living and you tank it through filth and crime and inflation, and they literally can't buy the groceries they want, at that point, maybe it matters less what you say or whether you're a good person or a bad person. You're wrecking people's lives in their country, and that's what our leaders have done to us. And coming to a Russian grocery store, the heart of evil, and seeing what things cost and how people live, it will radicalize you against our leaders. That's how I feel anyway, radicalized.
There you go. There's the
sanctions were before there was actual boots on the ground, correct? So the whole point of the sanctions was to prevent boots on the ground. Did that succeed?
That was not the point of the sanctions.
What the fuck? Yes, it was. Yes,
wait, the point of this. Wait, the point of this. Wait, no.
Are meant to stop.
I'm sorry.
In their entirety.
The point of this
thing that you want to say right now.
When the sanctions were.
What? No, Lauren. You think that sanctions are supposed to stop wars in their entirety? I want you to say that shit with your whole fucking chest.
It was meant to make it so that they were incapable of getting resources to the it was meant to stop.
Okay, so I'm denying avocados. I'm denying avocados to Miami to make you stop being an asshole. And you keep being an asshole. Did I fail?
Okay, go ahead, Gibbs. Help your girl out. Go ahead.
All right, so I want to say, so first, let's just grant. I don't have the numbers yet. I haven't looked at this info if they posted it, but let's just grant everything that Dylan said was 100% true. I'm just going to grant it about the Russian economy under the sanctions. What's interesting to me about this interview is the message that the Dems took and the message I, as a Republican, took from this, right? So the Dems are sitting here saying, look at Tucker go, oh, woe is me, woe is America, look how bad it is. The message I took is, look at this terrible country. Russia is under these sanctions, all their stuff suffering, their people spend a disproportionate amount, and all their prices are rising. But hey, look, their prices are less than or comparable to what you're paying here in America for the same goods. How
Not
is that even
comparable.
an issue?
Not true.
And so
It's not
that is
comparable.
definitely a message that I'm getting, and that's
Woo!
what a lot of Republicans
Yeah,
are
that's
getting.
a bad
Woo!
message. That's
And so
incorrect.
it's,
That's
That's
misinformation. That's
yeah.
propaganda.
Gibbs, I got some for
not
you.
propaganda,
Gibbs,
though.
I got some for
Well,
you
they
real quick.
literally listed the prices on the
Gibbs,
thing.
if your income
Gibbs.
sucks, if your income is $5 and let's say, let's do really simple math. Your income in Russia is $5 a month.
I understand what you're saying.
Your income in America is $100 a month.
Sure.
Avocados cost $2.50.
You're right.
Tucker Carlson goes to Russia and he's like, oh my God, avocados cost $2.50 here as well. Doesn't that make Tucker Carlson a fucking idiot?
No, that makes the person thinking that, oh, hey, the person thinking, hey, the avocados being $2.50 in a war-torn country with sanctions put on them, and then the free and independent leader of the free
Couldn't
world
Tucker
having the
give
same
that
prices for
context?
avocado. That's pretty pathetic on our part. What are we doing wrong is the message you should be taking, and it's letting the Democratic leadership dig us into an economic hole.
But y'all expect
Shouldn't
us not be affected by
shouldn't Tucker
are we-
tell
I
the
can't make it
audience how
simpler than
much
that.
on average a Russian spends? Because if I went
It
to
doesn't
you and I
matter
said,
how much a
wait,
Russian
no, wait, let's stop. If I
It
went to
does.
you,
It doesn't matter?
if Admiral Gibbs,
That's a
if I told you
crazy
in
take.
Nambia they spend $50, 50 cents on Coca-Cola, would you have any frame of reference to know if that's a lot of money, a little bit of money? Like, you have no reference because you've never been to fucking Nambia.
When you make $5 a month, that's a lot of fucking money, Admiral Gibbs. I don't understand how you don't understand relative properties of
If I go to
value.
Mexico and I buy a case of beer for $2.50, right, and that's $2.50 American, right? Okay, like you can do it like Cozumel or whatever, and then I come back to America and go, wow, my case of beer is $24, and you want to sit here and argue, oh, well, they spend a higher percentage on their income. When I'm going, hey, bottom line is it's the same product and it costs different prices. That's really the bottom line.
But what
I
about
don't
the
understand
difference in
why you're-
value of the
Well,
currency?
you got me there.
I
didn't think about it that way
I don't give
before.
a shit what their percentage of their income is.
You can't
They're
take
all-
What
advantage
about the
of that
difference
as
in
a
currency
loan.
value?
There.
Hold on.
That's
We gotta
an
let Rashad try
insane
this one.
sentence.
Rashad,
What about
try.
what about the difference in currency value? We're not even taking that into account when we talk about going to another country to buy the same product. Furthermore, Russians spend, according to the data, the Moscow Times, in February, they spent 50.1% of their monthly earnings on food products. They're struggling. You know how much Americans pay? They pay 11%. So like when we start talking about, Russians are doing just fine.
I mean,
They're not doing
I don't
just
know
fine.
about. I don't know if that 50% number is real.
I don't give a shit.
They're spending either half or a little bit under half of their monthly income on groceries. They're not doing well. They're struggling. They're not doing well at all. These sanctions are having a significant impact on their day-to-day life. They're not out here just living the same life that we are, spending the same amount that we are in relativity to their income that we are. No, they're taking L's left and right. And you're copping pleas and running defense, and you're making shit up. All three of y'all.
No, I'm absolutely not making shit up. I'm saying
I don't think you're making shit up. I think you're not understanding comparative value, or you're
absolutely
ignoring it.
I don't think he's making something up
because
either.
the
I just think
comparative
he doesn't
value
get it.
doesn't matter. Because the comparative value doesn't matter. What I'm saying is the average American looks at the item. Well, there's a reason why people are going to Mexico and other countries.
Comparative value
Mexican,
doesn't matter.
Right?
If I'm a Mexican, Admiral Gibbs, I need you to listen to me real quick because otherwise you're going to give me a fucking heart attack on this fucking program. Okay, so what we're talking about is the policy of nation states. So the United States of America has fucked us in the ass in a variety of ways. I will concede that fact. Sometimes I feel like I have a pineapple shoved up my ass on a fucking daily basis, right? However, what Americans are trying to say is that Russians, by comparison, have a spiked watermelon shoved up their ass. And so what we're saying is that they don't have larger assholes, okay? So when you bring up Mexicans, the 12 case of beer is $2.50 in fucking Mexico. And let's just say, for the sake of arguments, it's $2.50 in the United States of America, okay? An American can take advantage of the comparative value because they can go to the United States or Mexico and they can spend way less money on a fucking product. But a fucking Mexican is a Mexicant, okay? He only makes $2.50 a fucking month. So his choices are to buy a 12-pack of beer or to fucking starve. Those are his options. So when somebody says, hey guys, did you know that beer in Mexico is $2.50? It's so insanely cheap there. That guy's a fucking retard, because the Mexican can't take advantage of the cheap beer. And the foreign person, unless you're willing to fly to Mexico every other fucking weekend to buy cheap beer, they can't take advantage of it. Okay. That is the thrust of the point.
I'm gonna read some super chats. We are
a watermelon spiked thrust.
Yeah. Let me read some super chats.
I don't think the average Mexican is as poor as you're making them out to be.
What does that have to?
I'm just gonna read the super chats. We're not gonna get distracted from my money.
$5. Mexicans are not making money.
Please.
$5 from Artemis Fowl. How many people were held accountable for the lives of Afghanistan? Who was punished? Are the same people in charge? $10 more from Artemis Fowl. I laughed at Tucker for the grocery store thing. Russian food is cheaper because he paid in rubles, which trades 100 to 1 for USD, and Russians get paid far less than Americans. $5 from Cameraman 502.
He gets it.
Where did Tucker mention sanctions in that grocery bit? And $10 from Zephyr Hash. Does Admiral Gibbs have to be introduced to the McDonald's index? Yes, some goods cost different in different countries because the entire supply chain costs differently.
Yeah. Okay. Can I just, from personal experience, I lived for 8 months in Ukraine and I live in 4 months in the United States. When I live in Ukraine, despite work costs, because I have to pay for fixers, translators, and that type's expensive, my living costs there are tremendously cheaper than what they would be in the United States, living in the DC area, which is the area I was born and raised. I was born in the DMV. And so, I might go over there and the products might be cheaper, especially labor costs over in Ukraine are much cheaper. If I pay a translator over there, it's going to cost a lot less if I pay an American translator. But that doesn't, if I was to go over there and I was to say, hey, look at all these cheap prices, the answer wouldn't be, oh, the Ukrainians all have it economically fine, and because look how cheap all the grilled cheeses are. Oh my God, it's a really nice in the Ukrainian economy. We don't need to send any aid. It doesn't. No, you would have to look at how much Ukrainians are making. I mean, I know teachers in Ukraine that are making $150 to $200 a month. So that cheap grilled cheese to me is a lot different to them. So that's comparative value. And he didn't have his headphones on.
I heard you.
Okay, you did hear me. Good.
I understand what comparative value is.
Post.
I do want to give it to Fabian. God help us all. Fabian, go ahead.
So again, the topic for tonight, right, is about Russian influence. And again, I have to reiterate that there's this Mott and Bailey about what influence means, because obviously all countries that have a large amount of power and state apparatus and intelligence agency have some level of influence. So the real argument is about how much influence they have. And what you've seen is us be bogged down in attempting to determine what level of disingenuous propaganda and or stupidity comes from one specific interview of one person that has some sway with conservatives who the entire internet and Twitter memed on, who immediately got community noted when he was on X, and who almost every conservative is aware that the grocery store thing was dumb propaganda. And we're supposed to be bogged down for a half hour. It was defended here. This. No, it was not defended here. Again, you lack the ability to
oh my
understand
God. Stop saying these dumbass names.
Don't believe thy lying eyes.
I understand that you have difficulty following anything that isn't just specific hard facts.
This whole sidetrack conversation was caused because you Lauren did not.
I'm very slow. Yes.
No, you.
Rashad, relax, buddy. It's okay. If you wind it back, you'll understand that I said multiple times before you ever got mad at me that he was a propagandist. And then before you ever got mad at me, I said Marjorie Taylor Greene, probably retarded. And then I said somebody else, probably retarded. And then I said Tucker Carlson is almost certainly selling entertainment and is selling a specific narrative. The question is how much influence. Right. The question is how much influence does this evil Russian menace have on the political positions and our policy positions?
I want to answer that is question, the real question. I don't want to listen to 4 more minutes of ranting. I want to answer that question directly. I
have to reframe it. Right? It was
I don't want to hear your reframing. I don't give a shit. You talk for fucking 8 minutes at a time. Okay. So the answer to your question
relax
is that this is no, I refuse. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna go find a fucking pineapple and shove it up my own ass right now. So, anyways,
Also, your camera's
answer to your
Or is
question.
that just me?
Wait, what?
Sorry.
It's just
I
you.
think his
That was
camera's
an
like
interesting
super
comment.
laggy. Is it just me?
It's just you.
Oh, is he
Oh.
gamer? Fuck.
Yeah.
I
No,
heard
you're
something
fine
else.
on my end.
Unfortunately.
Okay.
Keep going.
Anyways.
Fair enough. Sorry,
So,
it was just like super
this
laggy, but just you. My
perspective-
bad.
Back to the pineapple.
Regardless of the pineapples up my ass, the truth of the matter is that Tucker Carlson's perspective and Trump's perspective on Russia, NATO, the conflict in Ukraine are popular with 55% of the Republican Party, and that part of the party is probably going to dominate in the presidential election. So saying, like, I'll concede a part of the argument. We don't know how much of this is organic conservative perspective mixed with Russian information warfare. I don't know how much of which is which, right? I'm saying it's bad. I'm saying it's bad, and it should be actively fought.
Okay, well,
I'm saying
it is
that
obviously
Yeah.
right.
I'm saying that it's
You don't sound like
mostly.
it is.
I'm saying it's mostly disgruntled Republicans, and that the idea that it's any really significant influence Russian propaganda is cope. That's what that is. That's really the bottom line.
I don't think it's cope at all. I mean,
Okay,
we have federal documents literally
most-
noting and taking document of Russian propaganda on social media swaying the people.
I
Like,
mean,
they're
when
swaying
we have
the
some of the
So,
most
Gibbs,
popular
we have, like,
voices in
2,000
conservative
bot
media
ads.
repeating Russian
That's
state
just a
talking points.
lie.
I think that's
a
significant.
lie.
Gibbs,
It's not a lie.
Anyone who
frustration.
believed in the Russian propaganda was already conservative and was not swayed. That's like, and I actually gave Wick a link that showed all of the data showing what populations were already were convinced by any
I put
Russian
the link in
propaganda
YouTube
and
and
how much
Twitch
of
for you.
Russian propaganda
Yeah.
there actually was. So
Gibbs.
false, and then
False.
yeah, and then also like
False.
the Russian propaganda was just a way for Hillary to do like a false to go after Trump for
Gibbs?
bullshit reasons.
Gibbs, you said
Do you
something
believe the
real?
Internet Research Agency was real?
God damn it. I'm talking to Gibbs. So
I'm talking to Lauren.
No, I'm talking to Gibbs. You wait.
Okay,
So,
stop.
Gibbs,
Hold on.
Gibbs.
Hold on. Both of you shut up. All of you shut up, okay? We are coming. We only got like 10
It was
more
just a
minutes
yes or
from
no
here. I want to get
question,
to
that's
both
all.
these questions. Laura was speaking first. We're gonna go to Dylan and Laura, and then we're gonna go counter on Gibbs next.
That's
how we're gonna
racist
do it.
against Mexicans.
I was done.
Well, no,
Well,
I told Laura,
Gibbs.
like, do you believe the Internet Research Agency was real?
Do
And
I
that they were
believe the-
operating during the 2016 election?
I think she's just saying the impact is minimal.
Yeah.
Okay, so you do
And
acknowledge, though,
there's
that the
a lot of
Russians were
data.
engaging in information warfare and attempting
I think
to.
there's a lot of countries that use Twitter and social media to try to push their agenda just like the way
Okay.
Americans do. This
But
isn't
can you answer my
that's
yes or
also
no
not,
question?
like, stealing votes or anything like that. Even if this were in play, which according to the data that I sent, I said that it was real. However, the impact that you guys are claiming it has is absolutely not shown in the data. And I actually sent all of the data to Wick to show you that people who believe this Russian propaganda were already deeply right and were going to vote for Trump. And so it wasn't like a bunch of Democrats read these Twitter.
So it's
Okay,
all
so
"Oh
the
my
2016
God,
election.
Biden did. Oh my God, Hillary did this. Oh my
So-
God, I'm going to vote for Trump. That didn't happen.
I do believe that the Russians did try to have an impact. How much impact they had in 2016 is debatable at best. But
No, it's not. It's
let
not
me
debatable, Beth. There's
okay.
math
Even if
data.
I was to concede that, the idea that if you acknowledge that there were people who were believing in Russian propaganda, then what happens when you put those people and you put them in the legislature, and then any one of those people could call for a recall vote on the Speaker of the House? Then that can have a legislative impact, can't it?
If enough of the people were swayed, but once again, the data.
Yeah, like the
doesn't
people who
show-
think that babies are being harvested for the Ukrainian government. Do you think that person might slightly be swayed against Ukraine? That's Russian state propaganda, by the way. It came from Russian state.
I get
Admiral
that.
Gibbs.
You're talking about specific. If you think MTG gets to control the entire country,
I do
then
think she can call a recall vote, and she said publicly that she would do it. And I think that has an impact when people are saying, I will try to end your political career if you even think about voting on Ukraine aid. Whether or not it eventually stops it for good, if it just delays it 50 days, 60 days, that has an effect in a war.
True. Admiral Gibbs. You said something that I feel was very true. That was very painful to me. But here's the thing about it. I think conservatives have legitimate concerns, some of which I deeply sympathize with. For instance, being propagandized by the American government, being forced to fight forever wars on other fucking assholes, being interventionist to our own detriment, not being able to secure our own border. I am perfectly fine with all of that. And as a matter of fact, we probably agree on 95% of policy in reference to those issues. However, I think what's happening is our rivals and our enemies are using these issues in order to propagandize conservatives, in order to turn over the tables of the republic and to not play the game anymore as far as living in a country with assholes. And I get it. Progressives are degenerate. Liberals are fucking weird. Fucking even centrists such as myself, we don't agree on everything with fucking conservatives. But the truth is, we all do share the same country. We all do share the same destiny. And we all do share a geopolitical interest. So what I'm not interested in is Trumpian conservatives withdrawing from Ukraine, buddy fucking Ukraine to the cost of hundreds of thousands of lives, and then collapsing our European alliance. I think that would be horrific geopolitically and potentially kill hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people. I don't want to do that just for a conservative post-ironic grocery store shit post. That does not sound worth it to me.
I don't think those are like fair. Like, which one are we choosing? Equivalencies, equate, whatever. I don't think they're equal. I don't think they're equal comparisons.
Do we
Right?
get outros?
I just want to say on that one, yeah, and then I'll be done. I just don't think it's fair. Like, as a conservative, right? I'm not a huge Trumper, right? That's would have not been my first choice. But I do think it's fair for him to be able to ask some of these questions and it not be Russian propaganda. Be like, I think it's fair to go, hey, why
I
are we
laughed
not
my
fixing the
dick off.
border? Yeah, like why are we like why are we not going to fix the border before we send money to Ukraine? Why are we paying more into NATO than any other country and them not paying like
When
fair
he
wage?
stood up in
These are
front
fair
of
questions.
European leaders, when he stood up in front of European leaders and he stuck his finger in their faces and he said, y'all need to pay your fucking fair share or else we're going to fuck you up. Like, that was actually, one, hilarious, two, awesome. Europeans do need to take their own security seriously. I want a leader who will pressure Europeans to take European security seriously. What I don't want is a president who's willing to pull out of the alliance entirely, which he has mentioned multiple times.
I mean, well, if they're still not going to get, like, if you can just keep throwing money in a hole, like, I
Well,
mean,
let's
like,
let's be clear.
There is no
Let's stop calling it a
working.
hole. Collective security isn't a hole. It's the interest of all of us, number one. But number two, of those nation states, before the Russian invasion of Ukraine, 8 out of the 31 NATO states paid. Now the number's 18. It's going to be over 20 by the end of the year, paying the 20%, the 2% threshold. That is a significant improvement. But so what I don't want to hear is from people like, we're seeing them do what we've been asking them to do for forever. We're seeing the Europeans surpass us in supporting Ukraine when it comes to financial aid already sent and dedicated packages they've promised for the future. And we're still saying, oh, they need to pay more into it. I do think they need to pour more into it, but they've already outpaced us and they're meeting our demands. So why would now be the time to threaten, say things like, hey, Russia, you can go fuck them up. You can go fuck them up if they don't pay the 2%, which creates uncertainty about a defense commitments. It can create a crisis.
I mean,
you can respond, but then we gotta.
Do we have closing?
I understand. Yeah, I understand all those. Yeah, I understand all those concerns.
Yeah, we're gonna get closing.
I just think that they're fair questions to ask, and I think there's like sometimes you need to light a fire under somebody's ass. I mean, I could argue that maybe the reason why these countries are paying is because Trump has lit a fire under their ass, kind of thing. I mean, I think that's a fair assessment. Maybe it's a fair question, but I don't know. I don't think it's fair to say this is Russian influence just because it's not. It might benefit Russia in some way and hurt the Democratic Party in another or something. That's not a fair.
I do just want to say quickly one last thing before we go into the next thing. There's a lot of talk of like us coming to Europe's defense. There's only one time Article 5 has been called, and that was after 9/11, and the Europeans went with us into Kandahar. They went with us into Iraq, many of them into Iraq as well, gallivanting across the Middle East, and their young men died for war started on our soil. And then the side effects of the wars, when it comes to mass migration from the violence that was in the region, that did also affect Europe as well. They put themselves on the line for our security interests. And if we want them to put their interests on the line again in the future, when it comes to other issues, be it Taiwan or other things, then we should take their security interests into our consideration at the very least and not abandon them.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for a robust discussion today. It was... You guys like to talk and like to yell at each other. That is both great and terrible. I love it and I hate it at the same time. Thank you all for being here. I want to give you all a chance to have closing statements, tell people where they can find you, put your links in chat, all the good things, right? So everyone, I want you to go to support all these individuals, all these creators. That said, it is the end of the month, gang. Last chance for you to sub to me, super chat to me. That would help as well. I can't do this for free. If you like this content, hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. If you're watching this on Twitch or on Kick, please hit the follow button. Really helps me out. Tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern, we're going to go on Tuna Chips podcast. That'll be fun. Next week, we got some great stuff coming up. We got on Wednesday, we got Brittany Simon, Erudite, Rashad, Counterpoints, a couple others. We're going to be talking about Coomer culture in these spaces, and that'll be fun. And on Thursday, I'm hosting a one-on-one debate between Kevin Logan and a yet-to-be-determined opponent on Israel-Palestine. That will be great as well. But let's go to closing statements. We're going to start with Fabian. We're going to work our way around, and we're going to give Rashad the last word. Go ahead, Fabian.
Yeah, sure. We can start with me. So I think I remain unconvinced. I think my position is still the same, which is that there is obviously some level of influence from many different places on our political system, and that the Russian influence is one that is consistently and constantly overblown by the Democrats over and over and over again, and has been for the last decade. It is kind of a tool that never really works, but they use it over and over again, hoping that it will work. Propaganda has always existed, and there are some forms of propaganda and information warfare as far back as war itself has existed. And so it is something that we always have to be vigilant towards in terms of some levels of misinformation. Best way to deal with that is to not freak out, not have hysterics, but instead utilize systems like community notes or, collective systems or, whatever it is that Facebook or Meta wants to do if they want to figure out better systems that don't cause issues towards free speech. The increase in the presumption of ideas being influenced is a problem specifically because it allows people to paint genuine opposition as Russian misinformation. That is the real threat that we're under with this idea going rampant, is that if we allow this histrionics to go above and beyond reality, what it allows the Democrats or the left to do is say, oh, you don't want to fund Israel? You don't want to fund Ukraine? You don't want to be involved in this specific military operation? Oh, well, that must be because you're bought by the Russians. Because and we're seeing it here. We are seeing argument after argument after argument that the two are synonymous with each other when they're clearly not. And the power given to the state to potentially stop this is a threat we should be concerned about. And we can see this even with something as simple as the filibuster in the Senate, right? The filibuster has been around since 1789, and in 1975, it went from 66 votes to 60 votes. In the 2010s, it went from 60 votes on legislation, but a simple majority vote on things like nominations. And if we keep using this rhetoric that, 20% is hijacking the entire political system, so how dare they be allowed to filibuster, etc., how dare they be allowed to have these processes? We need to stop them. What you're going to find is that the systems and institutions that the United States has built up to have a slow legislative process are going to be eroded and destroyed so that we have a more progressive and leftist form of government that gets bigger and bigger down this snowball hill that we're already heading. So don't believe the hysteria. It's bullshit. And yes, propaganda exists. When you see it, fight it and call it out for the stupidity that it is.
Okay, thank you for being here. Where can people find you?
Fabian Liberty on YouTube or on Twitter. Technically on Twitch, but I don't stream to Twitch.
Give him a follow, gang. Thank you for being here. I do appreciate you. Next up, Counterpoints. Go ahead.
So, what I would say, kind of responding and doing an outro. The anti-Russian propaganda has been overused and exaggerated, Fabian says. I kind of agree. I think Russia has been a rival forever. We should have expected them to be a geopolitical rival. We shouldn't be shocked that there are rivals. As a matter of fact, I would like it very much in the future if we work towards a more friendly relationship with Russia. But just because we've been talking shit about them and just because we've been treating them as an adversary doesn't mean that they haven't been acting as an adversary. Propaganda always exists. Yeah, no shit. but there's propaganda for aligned interests like the United States of America, Europe, their allies, and all the people that have built up this $65 trillion commercial empire that we're all reliant on for cheap gas and Funko Pops and avocados. This might seem materialistic and stupid, but it's not. The reason why we are wealthy enough to have this conversation is because of the American empire, and it's worth defending, and it's worth explaining. One of the things that I got frustrated with Fabian throughout this conversation was that he's mentioning how information warfare and propaganda is being used actively by all sides all the time, but I felt like he underemphasized the fact that there is a difference between allies and friends and domestic governments using propaganda towards shared goals versus adversaries using propaganda to undermine your goals.
It's worse.
Obviously,
like
different factions fight for different goals. So pretending that it's all information warfare is kind of fucking
misinformation
retarded.
by our presumed
there are
allies
things that we should all work towards.
That get us into wars are worse.
I have no problems with contrarian
than misinformation
thought. As a matter of
easily
fact, I
called
think
out
contrarian
against
thought
Russia.
is one of the most important parts of the American fucking republic. So contrarian thought is important because it keeps you on your toes, but it shouldn't be used to justify stupid fucking positions. You mentioned how the 20% of the country is being called out for hijacking the Republican system or whatever. That's good. I'm happy we have a slow-moving political system that actually factors in all the variables. However, I think another factor of that Republican system is being willing and able to call those people fucking retarded. So if 20% of people are hijacking your system and they're doing things that are counterproductive for hundreds of thousands or millions of people and potentially kills people that you care about, you are allowed to call that morally objectionable and stupid in public aggressively. And that's part of the beauty of our system.
Where can people find you, Counterpoints?
Counterpoints 40K. So type that into YouTube. You'll find my main channel. It's mostly science fiction breakdowns of popular media. It's doing very well. I'm very happy about it. If you want to check out the political channels, they're linked down in the description. Also, Counter Connor, COUNTERCONOR on Twitter.
Thank you for being here. Really appreciate you. Next up, Lauren De Laguna, please.
Hi, you can find me on X, on YouTube, on Instagram, and that's about it. And my name is Lauren De Laguna. That's DELAGUNA. And I just want to say I really appreciate everyone for not using the retarded word too much because it really offended me and would make me cry. And also the whole Russian hoax is bullshit spun up by Hillary to basically target Trump for 4 years, beyond 4 years, and make him go through ridiculous indictments, which were unfounded. And yeah, I think we're just not operating with the same set of facts, like when we're trying to argue. So it's very funny because like certain things that I think are bullshit, you guys think are legit. Other things that I think are legit, you guys think are bullshit. So it's very difficult. Reminds me of why I don't really argue Israel-Palestine, because it's like, and it also goes to explain why there's only been 27 bills passed, because we just can't seem to agree on underlying facts. But I sent Wick all of the links with all of the facts that I was using and basing it off of, including like the Russian economy growth in 2023 and the egg prices increasing around the world, not just Russia. So it's just so funny that that was your only example, and among other things. So make sure to stick to the facts, because facts don't care about your feelings. And Lauren De Laguna for president.
Thank you for being here. I really appreciate you coming. Next up, Dylan Burns, please.
Man, right? I did a 2-minute speech just about eggs. I talked about the brown eggs. I talked about the white eggs. I even talked about the polka dot Easter eggs. That's all I talked about. I didn't talk about aeroplanes. I didn't talk about the automobile industry. I didn't talk about anything else. Just those lovely, lovely eggs. But by the way, if you look at egg inflation, it was worse in Russia too. Because of the sanctions, because they couldn't import European agricultural products. And when it comes to energy exports, we got to remember Russia is the number one economic industry is going to be energy exports, and their energy export infrastructure they built up in Europe. Once that shuts down, they can't just magically construct that in Asia. They tried to replace it with Indian and Chinese exports, but the Indians and Chinese, despite whether or not the price caps were there, knew they could get that energy export at a lower price because Russia was in a bad negotiating position, and they only picked up like, what was it? I think it was like 1/5 or 1/8, I forget the exact statistic, of what the Europeans used to consume, and the Europeans are now consuming Norwegian crude and American LNG exports. So if your main economic export is going to be, the natural gas, or going to be crude, is going to be these types of products, losing one of your main consumer bases is going to hurt you whether you like it or not. And we needed that European independence to end if they're going to engage in this way in Ukraine. Now, moving on to, we had talked about Russian infiltration, the whole thing. I just wanted to quickly say, in the news, I don't know if people were watching, Transnistria, which was the breakaway part of Moldova that the Russians interfered in the 90s to prop up when the Moldovan government tried to assert authority, because the Russians said they had to save the Russian speakers of Transnistria. For anybody, if that rings a bell for anybody in that room, they just had the first Congress, Transnistrian Congress, which is just a meeting of the local thug authority that is ruling over Transnistria, that's deeply embedded with organized crime. It was the first meeting they've had in 15 years, and they asked for the Russians to come save them. To come save them. What does that sound like? And I'm not saying this to say that's going to happen anytime soon, but I am saying this to show that if anybody is under the opinion that once the Russians, get something out of Ukraine, they're going to stop with Ukraine, they have no ambitions anywhere else, if that's something you believe, while Moldova is deeply embedded with Romania, a NATO ally, and that could provoke a confrontation with NATO, if people think that it's not a wise investment, I would ask them to think of the future and make sure to be prepared for all externalities. Anyway, you can find me at Dylan Burns TV on YouTube. I'm a war journalist. I'm going back to Ukraine in a month. Hope you follow my my travels.
Give him a follow, gang. He's great, right? I know I had concerns before he went to Ukraine, but he's put them to bed. He's done a great job, and I think you all should give him a follow. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate you jumping in last minute. Appreciate you. Next up, Admiral Gibbs.
Hey. So let's see. Basically, don't take. I just want my leftist friends and compatriots here in this great nation to understand something. Not every opinion that us conservatives and Republicans in general are coming to is the fault of propaganda. We're not as dumb as y'all think. I know that that's a meme. We're not as backwards. We are sitting here. We're looking at issues, and some of the issues y'all care about aren't the issues that we care about, and vice versa. We all know this. But whenever we do have controversy, don't turn right at us and tell us, "Hey, it's propaganda. You're dumb for believing the propaganda." We have our own opinions. We have our own sources, and that's not conducive to this conversation of getting stuff done. As for Russian propaganda, I think it's a very small, minor factor here, and I think I've been very clear on that point overall. As for where you can find me, I'm Admiral Gibbs. You can find me as Admiral Gibbs on everything. Thanks for having me, Wick.
No, thanks for being here. I appreciate you. And gang, give him a follow. Great. You still streaming after this? We're gonna raid into you.
I will be. Thank you.
Okay. Last, but certainly not least, and you can blame him if you hated this topic, Rashad Crenshaw. Please go ahead.
All right, thank you guys for having me. Thank everybody for the great debate. I just think that the MAGA wing of the Republican Party is embracing an information war cycle that can cost them foreign policy, I guess, reputation for decades. I think they're going down a path that's completely unfounded in reality, and I think that this debate has explored that clearly. And I think that the beginning of the clear and intense Russian misinformation campaign, as we know it clearly in front of us, so we can clearly see, is beginning with Tucker Carlson. It's being spurred on by people like Candace Owens and Russell Brand and others. And I think that people should pay more attention because it's going to get worse as time goes on. So that's all I got to say.
Where can people find you?
Rashad Crenshaw on YouTube.
Gang, check him out. He's great. Love to have him on. Thank you for bringing me this topic. It was great. With that, gang, I know there's some people who want to call in, but I'm not doing call-ins tonight. I am beat. Okay, these guys have crushed my spirit. Right?
Excellent.
We have a new mic, but now I need a new soul. Okay, we're ready out. See you guys later.
Oh, Hassan Piker was right.
Bye. See you later.
Hey. Why'd you stop my music? There we go. I appreciate you guys. Yeah, I still need to see how these videos do. And I still need to put out a couple of standalone videos. I have my kids this weekend. So it'll be a while, but I want to see how streaming on YouTube affects the other videos as well. So I got to put out I'm going to keep doing this for now. Probably will stream Monday. You know, there might be another debate coming here soon. I'm trying to do everything I can to find these fucking open borders libertarians, but am I going to play Final Fantasy VII? Dog, I don't want to play a fucking remake. That's 1/3 of a game. I don't understand. I get that people are really into it, and I loved Final Fantasy VII as a kid. Like, Final Fantasy VII and Metal Gear Solid on PlayStation were, like, amazing games. But, like, give me a whole fucking game. Play Helldivers? I might check out Helldivers. I don't know. The way my money is set up right now, I can't really, like, if I'm going to play a game, I got to pick one. And then maybe play that one. But yeah, I got my kids this weekend, and then I don't know if it looks good enough, maybe we'll see. I might grab it this weekend or something and hop in Discord and see if anybody else is playing or whatever. So in the description is Discord. Join the Discord. Make sure you give this a like, share if you want, because this isn't going to go out to anybody other than our channel. And yeah, I appreciate you guys. It's been a long week for me. I got a bunch of stuff I got to do. I'm trying to figure out if these panels are dumber than the people Liquid Zulu quote unquote debates. I don't watch a lot of his debates, to be fair, unless somebody's like, hey, this is a really good one. Watch this one. So I don't know if I know like the caliber of the people he debates. If he just debates dummies, you know, which is fine, whatever. That's fun content to shit on like some random ANCOM on Twitter or something. You know what happens. It is not high caliber. I mean, I like Liquid Zulu most of the time. He can be annoying, but he can be annoying. He's super fucking annoying when you disagree with him, because like it's like he just won't have a human conversation with you. Like, I love him, and he's really smart, and he's got really good ideas, and he's really good at the philosophy, but he won't just talk to you like a human. It's like talking to a robot that is programmed to only win the debate, not have a genuine conversation or bounce ideas. So you have to go in like this is an arena, a battlefield of ideas, and we must fight to the death on like, even on like if you misuse a word, like he'll attack you on that and ignore your argument completely. And it's just like, dude, like it becomes tiring. So I like every now and then I'll do it. But if you want to if you want to test the limits of an idea that you have, he's probably one of the best. So, you know, there's that too. See, I knew that going into my debate with him. Yeah, I mean, it's like Liquid Zulu's a great debate opponent. You can't have a discussion with Liquid Zulu very well. If you're on a panel, you can. Because he'll be respectful to the panel and the concept there. Because I've done panels with him before and they're great. But if it's a 1v1, like he will turn it into a hardcore debate. You never heard of him? Imagine me, Aircraft Sparky, but smarter and more autistic. And younger and a ginger that occasionally fucking gets drunk late at night. And when I say drunk, I mean shit-faced. He's a smart kid. He's really, really smart. He knows the theory and the philosophy better than I do. I won't deny that. But it's just difficult to have a conversation with him. Oh, no, he's autistic as fuck. Trust. I mean, he might not be. I don't fucking know that he is. I'm just saying he comes off that way. But yeah, I have to wake up, do all the things that the first of the month require, get some groceries. Well, actually, I don't really need groceries, but grab some stuff for the kids. And then I have the kids this weekend. So I'll be on Twitter and I'll be in the Discord. And if you follow me on Twitter or if you're in the Discord, I'll probably see something. I'll probably catch you, but you're not going to see much on YouTube or anything. Probably do a live stream Monday. Probably. And then hopefully I might do like some reactions or some other videos throughout the week. So stay tuned. like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed, because we're like super close to I'm like super close to 2K. If I could look real quick. Okay, so I lost a subscriber during this fucking live stream. 157 views. One of those people was like, fuck you, I'm not subscribing anymore. But I only need 8 subscribers to get to 2K, so. I mean, don't subscribe if you're never going to watch anything. But if you're here already, you know, give me some sub. But I'm going to get out of here, guys. I appreciate you. I got to learn how to, like, raid people and, like, figure out who I want to raid and stuff. Because I know that apparently there's a way to do that on YouTube. I got to learn some YouTube shit while my kids are sleeping this week. Let me go make 8 accounts real quick. Yeah, if you do that, though, like, those accounts that you made will never click on any of the notifications. And so it'll actually hurt my channel more than help. Because subscribers doesn't matter. What matters is click-through rate, impressions, watch duration. And then, of course, whether or not your content is political and libertarian, because all of my videos get demonetized, like, instantly. But I set super chats up, and I'm waiting on approval to set members up. So then at least you won't get any ads if we do some live streams, and, you know, I can make some money that way. That'll be fun. Connor annoyed me greatly. Yeah, his lefty side is becoming more and more obvious these days. But yeah, continue the conversation in Discord or something. I got to go get some dinner. I got to relax. I got to decompress. I got a big day tomorrow. And I'll see you guys around. Want to see my combat abilities? Dude, I'm a fat, disabled, from a connective tissue disorder, former medic. Like, we're good. You know, my combat abilities are going to be barely better than your average civilian. Oh, is that so, Aircraft Sparky? All right. Well, you know, hit me up in DMs, and, you know, I'm going to be busy the next couple of days, but I'd love to know if you know the secret. But let me get out of here, guys. I appreciate you. I'll see you around. Peace.